The plant sounds different at this hour. Not quieter. It's never quiet here, not really. But the sounds change quality somehow. The aeration tanks do their thing all night. That low churning that you stop hearing after the first few weeks on the job and then start hearing again around hour 6 of a dead overnight. The chemical dosing pumps tick at their intervals. Somewhere on the east side of Building C, there's a pipe fitting that vibrates at a specific frequency when the main influent flow drops below a certain rate. And I've been meaning to write it up for 3 weeks, and I keep forgetting. And tonight I can hear it from the walkway. I'm standing on the walkway between the sedimentation basins and the filter gallery, holding my clipboard, and I've just finished the 345 readings. Everything is within spec. Turbidity's low, chlorine residual is good. The pH on basin 4 came back to where I wanted it, after I adjusted the coagulant dose around 1 a.m. Good night, technically speaking. The kind of night where nothing breaks and nothing surprises you, and you end up just a little bored by the end of it. I'm thinking about breakfast. That's what I'm thinking about when my phone rings. I look at the screen. Mom. The time is 3:58 a.m. This is not a call I expected, but it's also not a call that shocks me into anything. My mother has a habit. I want to be clear about what I mean by habit, because I'm not trying to make her sound unhinged. She's not unhinged. She's just a person who operates on a different frequency of urgency than most people I know. She called me at 2 a.m. once because she thought she smelled gas, and turned out it was the candle she'd lit earlier. She called me at 11 p.m., the night before my certification exam, because she'd dreamed something bad happened to me and wanted to hear my voice. She called me at 6:30 a.m. on a Tuesday last February because the news was reporting heavy snow in a city 2 states away, and she wanted to make sure I wasn't driving through it. So when the phone rings at 3:58 in the morning with her name on the screen, my first thought isn't dread. It's something more like, okay, let's see what this is. I pick up. Mom. She's crying. Not the soft kind. I mean the kind where you can hear the whole chest working, like something got knocked loose. Garrett. Her voice sounds like she's been crying for a while before she called me. Garrett, you need to leave, right now. You need to get in your truck and drive north, and you need to go tonight. I move away from the aeration tanks a few steps so I can hear her better over the churning. What are you talking about? Leave where? Are you okay? I'm okay. I'm at the house. But Garrett, you have to listen to me. I got a call from Patrice. Patrice. I know that name. Beverly Aldis's friend from her government job. The one she worked with before she retired. Emergency management office, county level. She'd had Patrice over for dinner twice that I remember. Maybe 3 times. Older woman. Always wore reading glasses on a chain around her neck. Patrice called you? At 4 in the morning? Earlier. She called me at midnight and I've been sitting here trying to decide whether to call you or not. Because she told me not to call anyone but Garrett, I can't just sit here and not tell you. I should have been more worried at this point. Looking back, I can see exactly where I should have hit a different gear. But I'm standing on a plant walkway at 4 a.m., and I'm tired, and she's cried wolf before, and I'm holding a clipboard with good turbidity numbers on it, and everything in my little corner of the world is technically fine. Mom, slow down. What did Patrice tell you? She makes a sound, like she's pushing air through something too tight. She said there's something happening. Something, she said it started at Whitmore General, in the hospital, and that it's been spreading, and that they've been trying to contain it, and that she'd heard from her supervisor that it was going to, that by morning. What's spreading? What kind of something? She didn't say everything. She kept stopping herself. She said she probably shouldn't have called at all. But she said, Garrett, she said, get anyone you care about out of town by morning. And then she hung up. That was 4 hours ago, and I've been sitting here and I kept thinking, maybe it's nothing. Maybe Patrice was overreacting, but she doesn't. Garrett, you know her, she's not. She's not the panicking type, I say. She's not. I look at my clipboard. I look at the filter gallery through the glass panel on Building C. Everything is running. The numbers are fine. The plant is fine. What hospital is Whitmore General? I ask, even though I know. I just need a second. It's the main one, the one on Callaway. Garrett. I know which one. I'm already walking back toward the main building. I don't know why. My feet made that decision, while the rest of me was still processing. Okay, Mom. Stay in the house. I'm going to wrap up here, and then I'm coming to get you. You don't need to come get me. I can drive, just... You're not driving anywhere alone at 4 a.m. because Patrice whoever said something scary on the phone. I say this like I'm still treating it as a maybe-nothing situation. I say it like that because I still think I'm being the calm, rational one in this call. I'll be there in 45 minutes, maybe an hour. Pack a bag. Just pack, like you're going to stay somewhere for a few days. Okay, she exhales. Okay, thank you. Mom. I stop walking. Is Patrice? Do you have her number? Did she call from her personal phone? A pause. She called from a work number. I didn't recognize it when it came through. I almost didn't answer. Okay, I'll be there soon. I hang up. I stand in the middle of the pathway for a moment. The aeration tanks churn. Building C's pipe fitting vibrates at its specific frequency. Everything is technically fine. I go inside and write up my end-of-shift readings in 2 minutes, instead of the usual 5, which is not something I've done before. I type a handoff note for the day shift. I don't write anything about what my mother just told me. I don't know why I don't write it. I just don't. I grab my jacket and my keys and the reusable cup I keep in the break room, which is almost empty because I drank most of the coffee at 1 a.m., and I walk out to the service truck. The parking lot is completely empty except for my vehicle. Plant runs skeleton crew overnight. Just me on this shift. The lot lights are humming their particular fluorescent hum, that slight buzz that I usually don't notice, and the road outside the gate is dark and also empty. I open the truck door and sit in it for a second before starting it, and I pull out my phone and open the local news app. It's 4:09 a.m. There's nothing on the local news. A car accident from yesterday evening, still the top story. A school board meeting that happened 2 days ago. The usual nothing. I open the county emergency management system on my work login. We have access because we're a utility, because infrastructure guys need to know if there's a flood warning or a contamination advisory. It's mostly a radio channel aggregator and a bulletin board. I click into the bulletin board. There's a post from 2:47 a.m. County level, marked routine. It says, advisory for medical personnel. Elevated patient volumes at area hospitals. Stand by for further communication. That's not nothing. That's also not something catastrophic, the way it reads. Elevated patient volumes could mean a bad flu season. Could mean a gas leak somewhere caused a bunch of people to go to the ER. Could mean a lot of things. But it went up at 2:47 a.m., which means someone was monitoring something at 2:47 a.m., which is not what you do for elevated patient volumes from a flu. I start the truck and pull out of the lot. 4:17 a.m. I'm on Route 9 heading toward town, and there's nothing on the road. Not unusual for 4 in the morning, but the nothing feels fuller than it usually does, if that makes any sense. Like the road has been empty for a long time, and not just tonight. The streetlights are doing their thing. I keep the radio on, country station out of habit, and I'm half listening while I drive and half running through what Beverly said. Whitmore General. On Callaway. I've driven past Whitmore General 100 times. Big regional hospital. Serves something like 4 counties. They expanded it 3 years ago. Added the North Wing. I got a stitches there once. Right hand. Filter maintenance accident. Not bad. I remember sitting in the waiting room at 10 p.m. on a Thursday, and there being maybe 8 people ahead of me, and the whole place being loud and bright, and the kind of organized busy that hospitals have. I think about Patrice. I've met her maybe 4 or 5 times over the years. Small woman, kept her hair short, had that specific competence that government workers either have immediately or develop over 20 years, and she'd clearly had it for the full 20. She never seemed like someone who scared easily. The 2 times I remember her being over for dinner, she talked mostly about procedures, what the county would do in a flood event, what the state protocol was for this or that kind of emergency. She had a child somewhere, a daughter, I think, but I don't remember much about that. The radio is doing something. The country song ends, and there's a gap where the next song should start. And instead, there's a brief burst of what sounds like an emergency tone, and then nothing, just dead air. And then the country station comes back with a different song, like a hiccup. I turn the volume up. The song plays normally. I turn it back down. I pull up the emergency management bulletin on my phone. I know, I shouldn't look at my phone while driving, but I'm on an empty road at 4 a.m., and I need to see, and there's a new post. Time stamped 4:11 a.m. It says, all county emergency services personnel report to designated staging areas. Residents in zip codes 47201, 47202, 47203 are advised to shelter in place until further notice. This is not a drill. 47201. That's the zip code that includes Whitmore General and about a 4-mile radius around it. 47202 and 47203 include most of the rest of the town. Okay, I say out loud. To no one. To the dashboard. I do this. Talk to myself in the truck. You spend enough time alone on night shifts, and you stop noticing you're doing it. Okay, so that's a thing. I press the gas. 4:24 a.m. First weird thing on the road. 3 police cruisers going the opposite direction. Running lights, no sirens. That combination feels wrong to me, even as I watch them pass. Lights mean urgency. No sirens means they either don't want to cause panic, or they're in a place already past the point of worrying about it. Second weird thing. A car pulled off on the shoulder. Both front doors open. Engine running. No one in it or near it that I can see. I slow down as I pass it. Nothing. No flashers. No one standing in the ditch. Just an empty car with its doors open and its hazards off and its engine going. I keep driving. My phone rings again. Beverly. I'm on my way, Mom. 20 more minutes. Garrett. She sounds different now. Less crying, more tight. Something is happening on Callaway Street. I can hear it from here. I have the windows open because it's warm, and I can hear. There's yelling, and something else. I don't know what. Her house is maybe 6 blocks from the edge of Callaway. Close the windows, I say. Lock the doors. I'll be there in 20 minutes. What is this? What is happening? I don't know yet. Close the windows and lock up. She does. I hear the sound of latches. Then, okay. I'm coming, Mom. Don't open the door for anyone. I hang up. My hands on the wheel feel different now. Not trembling. I'm not going to use that word. But aware. Like I'm noticing the wheel in a way I wasn't a minute ago. The resistance in it. The way the power steering responds. I turn off the radio entirely. 4:39 a.m. I come into the eastern edge of town on Pine Street instead of taking Route 9 all the way to Maine, because Pine Street brings me in closer to Beverly's neighborhood, and I know it better. The difference between driving somewhere fast and driving somewhere efficiently is knowing which turns to take. Pine Street at 4:39 in the morning should have nothing on it. What it has is this: a man standing in the intersection at Elm, standing totally still, facing the wrong direction. Meaning he's standing in the middle of the road facing north, and I'm coming from the east. And he doesn't turn to look at my headlights, even though they're full bright, and my truck is not a quiet vehicle. I slow down. He's wearing hospital clothes. Blue scrub pants, no shirt, no shoes. He's standing in the intersection, and his arms are at his sides, and he's not moving at all except that his head is tracking something, going back and forth slightly, slow, like he's following something I can't see. I stop the truck about 40 feet from him. He doesn't look at me. I honk once, just a quick tap. His head turns, toward the sound, not toward me specifically, toward where the sound came from. His eyes catch the headlights, and they're wrong. The color is wrong, or the surface is. Something about the way they reflect. His mouth is open. He starts walking toward me. Not fast, just walking, steady, directly at the truck. I put it in reverse and back up until I've got enough room to swing around him. Then I floor it down a side street. I don't look in the rear view because I'm focused on the street ahead of me, and also because I don't want to see if he's still following the sound of my engine. My hands on the wheel, my breathing. The truck moving through the dark neighborhood streets. Okay, I say again. To the dashboard, to nobody. Okay, so that's a person. That was a person. 4:51 a.m. Beverly's house is a brick 2-story, in an older part of town. The kind of house that was probably nice in 1978, and is now nice in a different, slightly threadbare way. She's lived there since before I was born. The porch light is on when I pull up. I can see her shadow through the curtain in the front window. I park in the driveway and get out fast, and she opens the door before I get up the steps. She looks like she's been awake for hours, which she has. Her hair isn't done, and she's wearing the blue cardigan she puts on over her pajamas, the one with the pocket on the left that's slightly stretched from her phone. She has a bag over her shoulder. Good, she packed, and she's holding her keys. "You came," she says, which is a strange thing to say to your son. I said I was coming. I hug her. She grips the back of my jacket hard. Not hard like a sentimental hug. Hard like someone using a handhold. "You're okay. You're fine. Let's get you in the truck. What did you see on the way here?" "Nothing," I say, because I'm not ready to tell her about the man in the intersection. Nothing significant. "Come on." She lets go and steps back and looks at me. Beverly Aldis has the specific talent of knowing when her son is not telling her the whole truth. She's had 32 years of practice. She narrows her eyes. "Garrett. In the truck, Mom. We can talk in the truck." She takes one more look at the house, the way you look at something when you're trying to memorize it, which is a thing people do when they know they're not coming back, and I noticed it and filed it away. And she follows me to the truck. I pull out of the neighborhood and immediately have to rethink my route. There are sounds coming from the direction of Callaway. I can hear them through the truck windows, which are closed. Raised voices, lots of them. Not the ordinary kind of crowd noise, but the other kind. The kind that has this specific frequency, like a frequency of fear, if that makes sense. People who are afraid make a different sound than people who are celebrating or angry. It's the pitch. It goes up, and it stays up. There are also sirens now, multiple, overlapping. I take Dewey Street north toward Millbrook, which runs parallel to Callaway but 3 blocks over, intending to get to the gas station on Sycamore. My truck has 3/4 of a tank, but I want full. I want to make this decision now before the town goes any further sideways. And also because there's a 24-hour convenience store at that gas station, and I want to grab supplies, and I'm already thinking about supplies in a way that tells me my brain is done pretending this is probably nothing. Beverly is sitting with her bag in her lap and her hands folded on top of it. She's not talking. She's looking out the window. "Tell me about Patrice," I say. She takes a breath. "I told you what she said. You told me the short version. She called at midnight. She said something was happening at Whitmore General. She told you to tell anyone you care about to get out by morning. Then she hung up." Yes, that's what she said. What else? She say anything before that? The way she was talking, did she seem scared, or did she seem matter-of-fact? Beverly thinks about this. Both. She was. You know Patrice. She's not a scared person. But she was scared. Underneath the way she was talking, which was still very Patrice. Very, "Here's what you need to know." But underneath it, there was something. She stops. "What?" She said something at the beginning that I didn't understand. I didn't ask her to explain because I was still waking up and trying to process what she was telling me. She said something like, "I probably shouldn't even know this. I only know because of the EPA report and the way the timeline lines up." I look at her, the road, back at her. EPA report. Yes. Patrice works for the County Emergency Management Office. Worked, Beverly says quietly. That word goes somewhere. I don't know where. I keep driving. What would she be doing with an EPA report? I don't know. She didn't explain. She just said that. And then she started telling me about the hospital and told me to get out. And I was so focused on that part that I didn't think to ask about the other part until she was already gone. I turn this over. EPA report. The kind of thing that crosses desks at emergency management, because environmental contamination is an emergency management concern. Could be anything. Water table contamination, air quality, some industrial spill somewhere in the region. My brain is doing the thing it does where it takes a piece of information and starts looking for the pipe fitting that explains the noise, the system that produces the anomaly. I'm not panicking. I'm reading meters. That's the mode I go into when something's off. Does Patrice have a family? I ask. A daughter, Donna. Beverly says this carefully, like she's wondering why I'm asking. She's local, Donna Schreiber. She kept her married name after the divorce. She works. I think she works at the county assessor's office, or something similar. She and her mother aren't particularly close. Patrice mentioned that once, something about a disagreement years ago. Okay. I pull into the gas station on Sycamore. 5:03 a.m. The gas station is lit up and open. There are 2 cars at the pumps already, which is unusual for 5 a.m. on a weekday, and one of them has its driver's door open and the pump in the tank, and no one standing near it. The other one has a woman at the pump, phone pressed to her ear, who looks up when I pull in and then looks back down at her phone. I park at the farthest pump from the entrance. I get out and start the fueling process. My service truck takes a lot of fuel. It's a work vehicle, and I tell Beverly to stay in the cab with the doors locked. She doesn't argue. I'm watching the street while the pump runs. Millbrook Avenue is mostly dark, but there are a few windows lit up in the apartment buildings across the street. More than you'd expect at 5 a.m., people who got woken up by something. While I'm watching, 2 more cars come through the intersection heading north. Not fast, but deliberate, going somewhere specific. The pump finishes. I hang it up, and then I go into the store. The guy behind the counter is watching something on his phone. He's maybe 19, dark circles under his eyes, and he looks up when I come in with the specific look of someone who has been waiting for someone to walk in so he can talk to them. "You hearing this stuff?" he says. I start moving through the store. Systematic. This is a small convenience store, so I know the layout in about 6 seconds. I've been here before. Twice probably. Protein bars, nuts, dried fruit, water bottles, anything with dense calories and a long shelf life. Batteries, first aid aisle, whatever they have. I'm moving and filling the arm I've tucked against my body like a basket. "What stuff?" I say from the water aisle. "The hospital thing. They're saying, I don't know, the app I follow, they're saying something happened at Whitmore General, and now the police are setting up at the intersections, and they told everybody to shelter in place, but like," he gestures at the window. "People aren't sheltering in place." "They're not," I agree. "What do you do?" he says. He's genuinely asking me. He's 19 and alone in a gas station at 5 a.m., and he's asking a stranger what he should do. I bring everything to the counter. 2 cases of water, protein bars, trail mix, 2 bags of beef jerky, a box of granola bars, batteries in multiple sizes, a first aid kit that's the good kind, not the cheap kind, 2 flashlights, and whatever they had in the way of pain reliever. "You have family nearby?" I ask him. "My mom. She's on the west side." "Call her. Tell her to pack a bag and stay inside for now. Don't go toward the hospital. Don't go toward Callaway Street. You have a car?" "Yeah." Once things get light enough to see, and I mean daylight, not just street lights. If things haven't calmed down, you drive to your mother, and then you drive north together. Okay? Together, not solo. He stares at me. "Are you serious?" "I don't know," I say honestly. Maybe this is nothing, and in 3 hours you'll feel dumb for taking advice from some guy at 5 a.m. But if it's not nothing, you want to be with your family, not alone in a gas station. I hand him a card, my credit card. "Ring this up." He rings it up without argument. As I'm signing, he says, "What did you say your name was?" "Garrett?" "Derek," he says. He extends his hand over the counter and I shake it automatically, which is a strange thing to do at 5:11 a.m. in a slowly unraveling town, but there you go. "Thanks, man. Call your mom," I say. I'm loading the bags into the back of the service truck when I hear it properly for the first time. It's been a background thing until now, the sirens, the raised voices somewhere to the south. But now I hear a specific sound that's different from all of those, and I stop moving. It's a human sound. It's coming from somewhere in the parking lot of the strip mall next to the gas station, which is dark. The store's all closed. And it's wrong in a specific way I can't name immediately. Beverly's window comes down. Garrett. I hear it. What is? Stay in the cab. I walk around the front of the truck to where I can see the strip mall parking lot better. There's a light at the far end of it, one of those tall parking lot lights. And in the pool of it, I can see two figures. One of them is standing. One of them is on the ground. The one standing is doing something to the one on the ground, and I can hear the sounds of it. Impact sounds. Irregular. Not like a fight exactly, but not stopping either. The one on the ground isn't moving the way someone being hurt normally moves, which is pulling away, protecting themselves. They're just there. The standing figure's head comes up, toward my direction. Even at this distance, I can see something wrong about how it moves. I get back in the truck. Beverly looks at me and doesn't ask the question out loud. I'm taking us out of town, I say. Right now. Okay. I start the truck, pull out of the gas station, take Sycamore to Miller toward the north edge of town. I'm not going back through any part of the eastern neighborhoods. My hands on the wheel, the weight of the supplies in the back, the sound my truck makes on the road, which I know as well as I know anything. Mom, I say after a few blocks. Yes, you said Patrice probably shouldn't have called you, that she said she only knew because of an EPA report. Yes. When did you and Patrice last talk? Before last night. Beverly thinks. 2 months ago, maybe. We had coffee. She say anything about her work? What she was dealing with? She mentioned, yes, actually. She said something about a lot of late nights. That there was a situation she couldn't talk about, which wasn't unusual. She said that sometimes. But she seemed stressed, more than usual. She said the word liability at one point, and I thought it was odd, because she doesn't usually talk like that, like a legal concern. She usually talks in terms of procedures and protocols. Liability. That's also a water treatment word, incidentally. It's what you call it when your discharge numbers go outside compliance. When something got into the water that shouldn't be there, and someone might sue about it. I keep that to myself. 5:29 a.m. We're on the north edge of town, near the Reservoir Road, and that's when things on the road behind us become irreversible. I see it in the rear view. The intersection behind us, 3 blocks back, has traffic in it. Not moving traffic, stopped traffic. And there are figures between the cars, and some of the figures are moving the wrong way. And I can see headlights going in wrong directions, and I hear something that might be a crash. Don't look back, I tell Beverly, though I say it in a voice that probably sounds more normal than I feel. Is it? Don't look back. I press the gas. The service truck responds. It's a heavy vehicle, but the engine is solid, and I take the next left, which is a road I know, because it parallels the water main that runs to the northeastern reservoir. My hands, the wheel, the engine sound. Okay. I have to stop here and say something about what I know and what I don't know, because it matters for what happens next. What I know, I'm a municipal water treatment technician, grade 4 certification, which is the second highest. I've worked for the Harwick County Water Authority for 6 years. Before that, I worked for a private utility in a neighboring county for 4 years, doing mostly distribution maintenance. Before that, I did 2 years of environmental science at the community college, dropped out, and went straight into water treatment apprenticeship because I liked the work, and the classroom stuff was making me unhappy. I know water systems. I know where the pipes run in this town, which is more than most people do. I know the access points for the utility tunnels, the valve locations, the pumping stations. I know the back roads that run along the infrastructure, because those are the roads I use for work. I know where the overflow basins are, the emergency bypasses, the secondary distribution lines. I know which parts of the system are old and which are new, and where the weak points are. What I don't know, what exactly is happening to people in this town, or why. I have pieces, hospital, something spreading, An EPA report that Patrice connected to a timeline. People in the streets who are walking wrong, tracking sound, not tracking faces. I'm a systems thinker. I can see a broken pump and know within about 10 minutes what's causing it. Sometimes less. But I don't have enough data yet. I'm working with a partial reading, and the partial reading is showing me something is very wrong, and I need more information. What I do know, driving north on the utility road at 5:30 in the morning, we're not safe in this truck on the main roads. The truck is conspicuous, and the road behind us just went bad. But I know this road. I've driven it 50 times at minimum. And at the end of this road is a junction box building that has access to the utility tunnels that run under the northeastern part of this town. 5:47 a.m. I pull the truck off the utility road onto a gravel service track and park behind the junction box building. It's a squat concrete building, no windows, and it has a heavy lock on its access door that I have the key for, because I have keys to all the access points on this distribution system. I kill the engine. Beverly is quiet. I need to think for a second, I say. She nods. She's looking out the windshield at the concrete building. The sky in the east is doing the first faint thing it does before actual sunrise. That color shift that isn't yet light, but isn't quite dark anymore. In maybe 40 minutes, it'll be real daylight. I pull my phone. Connectivity is poor out here. Always is near the reservoir road. The cell coverage is patchy. I get enough to check the emergency management bulletin. The last post is from 5:22 a.m., and it says, "Countywide emergency declared. All residents shelter in place. Do not use roads. Emergency services are responding." Below it, a few minutes later, a post that someone added and then apparently tried to delete, but it's still there in the refresh I caught. Whitmore General under quarantine. Containment perimeter established Callaway to depot. Do not approach. And then the app stops loading. The connection's gone. Okay, I say. To Beverly. To myself. To the dashboard. Here's what I know. The hospital is under quarantine. The county's declared an emergency. The roads in town are getting bad. We're in a spot right now that is, I look around, out the windows, isolated. Nobody knows this road. We bought some time. Beverly is looking at me carefully. What are you thinking? I'm thinking we can't just drive north on the main roads. I'm thinking those roads are going to be either blocked by police or blocked by people trying to get out, or both. I'm thinking I know a way through the tunnel system that comes out on the north side of Route 9, past the edge of town. Tunnels. Water main access tunnels. They're maintenance tunnels, big enough to walk through upright. Most of them. I've been in them 100 times. You want to go underground? I look at her. I want to go somewhere that isn't on a road where bad things are happening. I pause. Mom, what I saw on the way here, and what I saw at the gas station, the people. I know. You know? I heard it. From the house. Before you got there. She says it simply. Not dramatically. Just a fact she's been sitting with for the past hour. I heard a woman screaming, and then it stopped. We sit with that for a second. I don't want to go into a tunnel, she says. I know. But I trust you more than I trust the roads. Okay. I get out of the truck. Give me 15 minutes. I'm going to get the tunnel access open and get a look at conditions in there. And then I'm coming back for you and we're going in. The junction box building smells like concrete and standing water and old plastic conduit. The electrical panel inside is for the pump controls at this node of the distribution system. It's not the tunnel entrance. The entrance is around the back, a metal hatch in the ground with an access ladder. I pop the hatch and shine my flashlight down. The main tunnel runs north-south, 8 feet in diameter, concrete walls with a walkway on one side above the pipe. It's humid down here always, and it smells like treated water and old concrete, and nothing else particularly offensive. The lighting is fluorescent strips on the ceiling, every 30 feet or so, and they're on. The power to the tunnel lights runs off the local grid, and the local grid is apparently still up. I go down the ladder and walk maybe 200 feet in each direction to check the conditions. Bone dry on the walkway. No issues with the pipe that I can see. The junction at the north end is clean. I go back up. 30 feet from the hatch, In the gravel at the base of the junction box building's back wall, I find a teenage boy curled against the foundation. He's alive. He's wearing an EMT uniform, the volunteer kind, not the full-time kind, the slightly less official one, and there's a significant blood stain on the right sleeve of the jacket. He looks up when my flashlight hits him. His hands go up. "Not infected," he says immediately, like this is the most important thing to establish. "That's not my blood. I'm not infected." I keep the flashlight on him. He's young, maybe 16, 17. Brown hair, a cut on his forehead that's dried already, eyes that are doing the thing eyes do when someone has been scared for a while without a break. "Where did you come from?" I ask. "The hospital." He swallows. I'm a volunteer, junior volunteer EMT. I was doing observation hours tonight, and then it started happening in the emergency department, and they told us to get out, and I ran, and I ran, and I didn't. I just ran until I couldn't hear it anymore." "What happened in the emergency department?" He stares at me. This is a question he's been replaying. "There was a patient," he says, "brought in by police around 1 a.m. He was restrained. They thought he was on something. I heard them say that. Some kind of stimulant or something. And then he got out of the restraints somehow. And he bit one of the nurses. His jaw tightens. And then she..." "Okay," I say. "Okay, I get it. It spread fast. I mean really fast. Like faster than anything What's your name?" Tyler Bosch." "Tyler, my name is Garrett. I've got my mother in the truck around front. We're going into the tunnels under the town to get to the north side of Route 9 and out of town from there." I look at his arm. "That blood. How long ago did it happen?" "It's not mine. I told you." "I believe you. I'm asking because if someone else's blood is on you, from someone who was..." He looks at the sleeve. Something shifts in his face. "I touched her. The nurse, when I was trying to..." He stops. "I touched her arm when I was trying to move her, get her back from him, before she..." He pulls the sleeve up. The skin on his arm is intact. No bites, no scratches. I look at it with the flashlight. "Okay," I say. "You're good. Come with us." He stands up, a little shakily, and follows me around the building. 6:18 a.m. Beverly and Tyler are introduced in the 30 seconds it takes for me to open the truck's back doors and start pulling out the supplies I want to take into the tunnels. Beverly looks at Tyler the way she looks at anyone young and distressed, which is with an immediate softening I've seen her deploy on my friends since I was 6 years old. She doesn't fuss over him, but she asks him if he's hurt, checks the cut on his head with the quick efficiency of a woman who raised 2 kids, and pronounces it not deep enough to worry about. Tyler helps me carry supplies. He's trying to be useful. I appreciate that. I take both cases of water, all the food I grabbed, the first aid kit, all the batteries, both flashlights, plus what I have in the truck's work kit, which is substantial because a water treatment technician's service truck is basically a mobile problem-solving unit. Pipe wrenches, channel locks, a short pry bar, zip ties, work tape, a can of spray lubricant, nitrile gloves, a spare headlamp, a handheld meter for reading water chemistry, plastic sheeting. I also take 2 things from my personal bag in the cab, a notebook I use for shift notes, and a box cutter that I carry for cutting cable ties and strapping. Beverly watches me load everything into 2 duffel bags and 2 canvas tote bags and shakes her head. "How long are we going to be underground?" "Hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. This isn't a permanent solution." "Then why do we need all of this?" "Because I stopped trusting the word temporary about an hour ago," I say. She accepts this. I lock the service truck. I feel strange about this, locking a truck that I'm leaving, because some part of my brain that still thinks in normal world terms is worried about what my supervisor will say if he calls and the truck isn't back at the plant. I'm aware, even in the moment, that this is a completely absurd thing to be thinking about, but that's where your brain goes. I take one more look at the sky before we go underground. The east is definitely lighter now. The sun is maybe 20 minutes from the horizon. It's going to be a clear day, which is neither here nor there practically, but I notice it. Then I open the hatch and we go down. 6:31 a.m. Tunnels. The sounds of the tunnel are specific and consistent, which is a thing you need if you're someone whose anxiety expresses itself as hypersensitivity to wrong noises. The water in the main pipe is moving. You can hear it, a low hiss rush that becomes part of the background within a couple of minutes. The footsteps of 3 people on the concrete walkway, our breathing, the fluorescent lights hum. Beverly walks in the middle, Tyler ahead of her. Me at the back, watching our 6, with one of the flashlights supplementing the tunnel lighting in the darker stretches between fixtures. I'm also watching the pipe itself, old habit, and the pipe looks fine. No seepage, no stress cracks in the concrete casing, everything running normal. We're heading north. The tunnel runs for roughly a mile under the town, before it splits at a major junction, one arm going west toward the main treatment plant, one arm going north under Route 9, and out the other side toward the reservoir system. We want north. Tyler is quiet for the first few minutes. Then, can I ask something? Go ahead. You work for the water authority? Yes. Do you know, is the water safe? Because I heard someone at the hospital saying something about the water. Right before everything went bad. One of the doctors, she was on the phone, and she said something about trace contamination in the distribution system, and I wasn't paying attention because everything else was happening. I stop walking. Beverly almost walks into me. What? Trace contamination in the distribution system, I say back to Tyler, not as a question, as something I'm placing. He nods. I think about the turbidity readings tonight. I think about the chlorine residuals. I think about the fact that everything was within spec, within normal parameters, nothing flagging on the meters. But I also think about this. Water treatment systems test for what they're designed to test for. If something is in the source water that isn't on the standard testing panel, you won't see it on the meters. You'll see normal readings and a very abnormal outcome. I think about the phrase EPA report. I think about the word liability. I think about Patrice knowing this was coming hours before anyone else did. And then I think about something I don't let myself think about too long, because I don't have enough information yet, and I don't want to jump to a conclusion I can't support. But it sits there. Keep moving, I say. I'll think about that later. We keep moving. 6:59 a.m. We're about 600 meters into the tunnel when I hear something that shouldn't be there. It's faint, and at first I tell myself it's a pipe vibration, some minor hydraulic noise from a section ahead. But I've been in these tunnels enough times to know the acoustic signature of pipe noises, and this is something different. This has irregularity. This has a pattern that I could almost call organic, though I'm cautious about that word. I put my hand out. We stop. Beverly and Tyler both hear it now. Tyler's hand goes to the flashlight he's carrying. Ahead, maybe 200 meters, there's a branch in the tunnel. A smaller access corridor branching off to the right, leading to a series of fire hydrant connection points. The sound is coming from that direction. Something is in the branch tunnel. I take the lead. I move forward slowly, keeping to the edge of the walkway, where my footsteps are quieter on the concrete. As I get closer, the sound resolves. It's a person. Someone sitting or crouching against the tunnel wall in the branch corridor, making a sound that is somewhere between breathing and crying, and neither of those things exactly. I shine the flashlight around the corner. A woman, middle-aged, wearing a work blazer and jeans like she left an office in a hurry. She's sitting with her back against the tunnel wall and her knees drawn up, and she's got a phone pressed to the side of her face. Dead phone, no screen, pressing it there like the pressure is the point and not the call. She flinches away from the flashlight. Easy, I say. We're people, alive people. She lowers the phone, squints into the light. How did you get in here? I work for the water authority. I have access. What about you? She's quiet for a second. Then, the access panel behind the county assessor's office. I've known about it I used to use it as a shortcut to the parking garage when I worked there. She looks past me. Beverly and Tyler are visible at the corner. She looks back at me. Are you going north? Yes. She gets up. It takes a second. Like something in her leg isn't cooperating properly. She limps slightly as she straightens. My name is Donna Schreiber. Beverly makes a sound. Something involuntary. Not a gasp, but the next thing before that. Donna looks at her. Recognition, slow and complicated, moving across her face. Beverly? Donna says. You're Beverly Aldis. Donna. Beverly steps forward. Your mother, Patrice. She called me last night. She called me and... Donna's face does something I don't have clean words for. Not grief exactly. Not yet. Something more like bracing for grief. Like someone who has been waiting for confirmation of something they already know. She's gone, Donna says. Not a question. I don't know, Beverly says. She hung up and I haven't. I tried to call her. Donna holds up the dead phone. Starting around 4 a.m., when I woke up to the sirens, I couldn't get through. She looks at the phone in her hand. She would have answered. She always answers. The tunnel is quiet except for the water moving in the pipe. She called me at midnight, Beverly says carefully. She said to get out. She mentioned an EPA report. Something moves through Donna's expression then. Some flicker of recognition that goes in before she can control it. She knows what EPA report. You know about it, I say. She looks at me. Who are you? Garrett Aldis, Beverly's son. I work for the Water Authority. A pause. Then she says quietly, That's an interesting job to have right now. What does that mean? She shakes her head, not refusing to answer. More like figuring out how much she knows and how much she can say. Can we keep moving? I'll explain while we walk. Aft. We form a line again. Donna limping slightly behind Tyler. Beverly behind Donna. Me at the back. The tunnel hum. The water sound. Donna explains while we walk, in the clipped way of someone who is relaying information that she's been processing alone for hours, and is using the act of explanation to organize it. My mother worked in emergency management for 22 years, she begins. She knew things she couldn't talk about. That was normal. I grew up knowing there were calls she took in other rooms and documents she didn't leave on the counter. That's the job. Yes, Beverly says. About 3 months ago she called me. This was unusual, because she didn't call me often. We weren't close, exactly. Not estranged, just distant. We'd had a disagreement years ago, and neither of us fully got past it. But she called, and she asked me a strange question. She asked if I still had her email password. I'm listening hard. She'd asked me to set up an email account for her on a personal address a few years back when I used to help her with technology stuff. I still remembered the password. She asked me to check the account for any messages from a name she gave me, a woman at the state EPA office, named Linda Howarth. Did you check it? Yes. There were 2 emails, both from Linda Howarth. The first one was sent in a very careful way, like someone choosing every word carefully. It described an inspection that Linda's office had conducted at a pharmaceutical company called Brentwell Pharma, which has a research facility about 30 miles east of here. Tyler half turns back. Brentwell? I know that name. A lot of people around here work there, Donna says. Or did. It's one of the main employers in the region, but the inspection wasn't about their main operations. It was about waste disposal. Apparently someone at the state level had flagged some irregularities in their disposal records, and Linda's team went out to look. What they found. Donna slows her walking for a second, like the act of saying it requires physical steadiness. What they found was evidence of illegal disposal of experimental compounds. Not the main drugs they manufacture, but compounds from an early-stage research program that was apparently canceled. Compounds that should have been destroyed through approved incineration methods, but instead were being pumped into a series of lined seepage basins on the eastern edge of their property. The eastern edge of their property, east of town. The reservoir intake is east of town, on the river arm that drains from that area. The seepage basins, I say carefully. Are they anywhere near a drainage watershed that connects to the Harwick River tributary? Donna looks back at me. The second email had an attachment, a map. I only looked at it once and I didn't have time to study it, but yes, there were drainage arrows on it. The Harwick River tributary feeds into our primary reservoir. Our primary reservoir feeds into the treatment plant intake. Our treatment plant is where I work. I stop walking. Garrett, Beverly. I start walking again, faster than before, because if I stop moving, my brain is going to reach a conclusion I'm not ready to reach, in a tunnel, underground, without anything I can do about it. What did the second email say? I ask. Linda Howarth's second email was about the compound itself, about what it was. She'd had it analyzed, apparently through a private lab, because she didn't trust the official channels at this point. And the compound was, she described it as a neurological disruptive agent, something from an early-stage neurological research program, designed to, I don't know exactly how to explain the science, I'm not a scientist. Describe what she said as close to literally as possible. Donna thinks, walking. She said it was designed to suppress certain inhibitory functions in the brain. The research was originally for a neurological condition, I think. But the compound had serious problems when the dosage was too high, or when it was combined with certain other chemicals. It caused what Linda described as complete disinhibition cascade in animal trials. Which means, Tyler says, from ahead. Which means, I say, because I can see where this goes, even without knowing all the steps, that the brain stops being able to regulate certain impulses. The inhibitory system, the part of your brain that basically tells you not to do things, fails completely. The tunnel is quiet except for our footsteps. And you said this thing was possibly in the water source, Tyler says. Possibly in the watershed, yes. If it got into the water table and then into the river tributary, it would reach the reservoir. I'm talking through my own thinking now, out loud. The issue isn't just the compound itself, though. The issue is what happens to it when it's treated. Treated how? Chloramination. It's the disinfection process we use. Chloramine, chlorine combined with ammonia, is really effective at killing pathogens. But it's also reactive. It bonds with organic compounds in ways that sometimes create byproducts. I pause. Some of those byproducts are harmless, some are not. You're saying the water treatment process could have changed the compound, Beverly says. I'm saying it's possible. I'm saying it's worth considering. I don't know for certain. I'd need to do actual water chemistry analysis to know anything for certain, and I don't have a lab. I look down at the handheld meter I carry for field readings. I have a basic meter, but it reads for pH, chlorine residual, turbidity. It doesn't read for experimental pharmaceutical compounds. But if it's in the water supply, Tyler says, then everyone who drank tap water in this town. Not all at once, I say, because I need to slow this down before it goes somewhere unhelpfully catastrophic. The distribution system doesn't work like that. Different parts of the town get water from different pressure zones, different service loops. The concentration would vary by how much water people drink, their body weight, their individual neurology, and this would have been a very low concentration at first. Probably, the EPA compounds were in a seepage basin, not a direct injection into the water supply. It would have been diluted by the reservoir. Some people might be affected more, some less. Some might show symptoms after a week of tap water, some after a month. So not everyone is infected, Donna says. Not everyone is affected. I choose that word deliberately, though the distinction may not matter much practically. We walk in silence for a while. 7:34 a.m. The junction where the tunnel forks is a bigger space, a valve chamber, maybe 20 feet wide, with the main pipe running through, and the branch going north, clearly marked with faded yellow paint and an arrow. There are 3 metal fold-out stools that maintenance crews leave here, and I tell everyone to rest for a minute, because Beverly is starting to breathe hard. Not from the walk, she's a fit woman, but from everything. We sit. I hand out water. Tyler unwraps 2 granola bars and gives one to Donna, without asking if she wants it, which tells me something about him. Can I ask you a question? Tyler says, looking at me. Yes. At the hospital, before it went bad, one of the early cases, the patient they brought in. He was a maintenance worker. They were talking about him at the nursing station. He worked at the water treatment plant. He says this carefully, watching my face. I look at him. What was his name? I don't remember. Older guy, white hair. We have 3 maintenance workers with white hair, I say. It's an older workforce, I think. But if one of them, if a plant worker was showing symptoms before most of the town, that would be consistent with daily occupational exposure to the source water. We test the source water constantly, but we also have incidental contact with it during maintenance. I look at my hands. I think about the hours I spend on walkways above the aeration basins, the occasional splash when a pump fitting lets go, the taste of the air inside Building C on a humid night. Everyone is looking at me. I feel fine, I say. I feel completely fine. No one says anything. The compound takes time, I say, mostly to myself. If this has been gradually building up in the water supply over weeks or months, and if the treatment process altered it somehow, the people who'd be worst affected first would be people with the heaviest exposure. High consumption, long duration, I pause, or people with specific neurological vulnerabilities. I think about Beverly. She's lived alone since my father died. She drinks a lot of tea, 5 or 6 cups a day. She's been in this town her whole life, drinking this water her whole life. I look at her. She's looking at her hands, wrapped around the water bottle I gave her. Mom? She looks up. How are you feeling? A pause. Her eyes on mine. Something in her face that I don't like. Something careful and contained. I feel, she says, tired, which is normal given. Are you sure? Anything else? Garrett, she says my name with a very specific weight. The weight of a woman who has something to say and is choosing how to say it. Let's focus on getting out of the tunnel. We can talk about everything else after. It's not a deflection, it's a triage. My mother is a practical woman, and she's telling me that what comes first is north. I believe her, because I need to. I don't know if I should. We keep moving. The north branch of the tunnel is slightly narrower, 6 feet in diameter instead of 8, and the walkway on this section is older, the concrete grittier, the lights slightly less reliable. 2 of the fixtures in the first 100 meters have dead bulbs, and I close the gaps with the flashlight. Tyler holds the second flashlight. Donna talks while we walk. More about what she knows, which she seems to be deciding to share piece by piece. When I told my mother I'd read the emails, she says, she went quiet for a long time. Then she said she needed to handle it carefully. She said there were people at the county level who were already aware of the EPA finding and were managing it through official channels, and that the official channel response was to, she used the phrase, minimize public communication until they had a better picture of the health impact. Meaning they knew something was in the water and they didn't tell anyone, Tyler says flatly. I think, yes, I think some people at the county level knew that an investigation was ongoing. Whether they knew the extent of it, I don't know. My mother seemed to think her supervisors were being told one thing and she was seeing something different in the raw data. What raw data was she seeing? I ask. Hospital admissions, behavioral health incidents. She had access to some of those figures through her emergency management role. She said the numbers in certain zip codes, specifically the zip codes on the north and northeast sides of town, started rising about 6 weeks ago. Small increases at first. Domestic disturbance calls, ER visits for confusion and aggression. Nothing that would be obviously connected to a water contamination event. You'd only see the connection if you were actively looking for it. 6 weeks ago, I go back through my mental calendar. 6 weeks ago, I was doing routine maintenance on the filter gallery. Normal numbers. Nothing flagging. But 6 weeks ago was also, I think, around the time I started noticing that the overnight shift felt different, in a way I couldn't pin down. More calls on the county scanner. A few extra police responses that I'd catch on my phone while I was doing rounds. I'd dismissed it. Context of the times, I'd told myself. Crime goes in waves. The north and northeast zip codes, I say. That's the service loop that draws from secondary pressure zone 4, which runs off the reservoir intake. The same intake that receives water from the Harwick tributary, Donna says. Yes. Everyone goes quiet, and we walk. 8:03 a.m. The tunnel exits through a valve access pit under a gravel maintenance road on the north side of Route 9. I know this pit. I've been up through this hatch probably a dozen times. I go up the ladder first and crack the hatch and listen before opening it fully. The road above is quiet. Not empty quiet like last night, but actual quiet. I open the hatch. Dawn light. Clean air, the smell of gravel and cut weeds, and the faint chemical smell that always clings to infrastructure access roads. It's not anything harmful, just the specific smell of treated utility equipment and sun-warmed concrete. I help Beverly up. She comes out blinking into the light and turns to look south, toward town, and I follow her gaze. The town is visible from here. We're slightly elevated. The utility road runs along a ridge, and what I can see is not anything I can cleanly interpret. There's smoke, a column of it, coming from somewhere in the southern part of town. There are no obvious sounds of panic at this distance, but I can see police lights on two separate roads heading east. The main road through town, Route 9's south section, appears to have traffic stopped on it in a way that is clearly not normal traffic. Tyler comes up and stands next to me. He looks at the smoke column. He doesn't say anything. Donna comes up last. Where is the reservoir facility? She asks. About 4 miles northeast, I say. There's a county road from here. You think it's safe? I think it's safer than being in town. I look back down the tunnel access to make sure we got everything from below. It's an old facility. The county decommissioned the active operations there about 8 years ago when we expanded the main plant. But the infrastructure is mostly intact. There's a building, there's security fencing, there's water, obviously, and there's a generator. There was one when I was last out there for an inspection, anyway, about a year ago. And there's no one out there, Beverly says. Not a question. She's been there once, I think, years ago on some county open house thing. Probably not. Probably. I pick up the bags. We start walking northeast along the utility road toward the reservoir. 8:31 a.m. We're 40 minutes into the walk when we find Harold Cutler in the road. He's standing next to his pickup truck. The truck has 2 flat tires, both on the driver's side, and from the look of it, he drove over something sharp and didn't notice until they both went flat. He's standing next to it with his arms crossed and his face doing the thing faces do when someone is trying to decide what they're going to do next. He's maybe 65, big through the shoulders, wide hands, a flannel shirt over a work undershirt. His hair is gray-white and cut short. He has reading glasses hanging from the front pocket of his flannel. He looks up when he hears us on the road. "Morning," he says, with the specific rural town inflection that says, this is what you say to strangers on a road, even when it's 8:30 in the morning and there is smoke visible to the south. "Morning," I say. "Both tires?" "Both on the left side." He looks down at them with a kind of weary disgust. "Drove over something in the dark, I think. I was heading out of town and there was stuff on the road. I didn't see it until after." "You live in town?" "Farm supply store on Miller. I sleep in the back apartment. Or I did." He looks south. "I don't think I'll be doing that anymore for a while." "We're heading up to the old reservoir facility," I say. He looks at me, then at the rest of the group, Beverly, Tyler, Donna. He's calculating something. I can see it. Not in a suspicious way, more in the way a person who has been alone for a couple of hours calculates whether 4 people they don't know are a problem or a resource. "I know that facility," he says. "Drove past it plenty of times." He looks at the truck, at the road, at the sky. "I've got about 60 pounds of mixed emergency seed in the truck bed. Canned goods, a few tools. How do you want to handle the truck?" "I'll pull the engine plug and take what I can carry," he says, simply. Like this is just a logistics problem, which I suppose it is. Name's Harold Cutler. Garrett Aldis. Any relation to Beverly Aldis? I look at him. "She's my mother. You know her?" "She came into my store twice." He nods in Beverly's direction. "Ma'am." Beverly gives him a small nod back. Harold spends about 10 minutes pulling things from his truck. He's methodical about it. No wasted motion. He takes a military surplus pack from behind the seat and fills it with canned goods and some tools and a first aid kit larger than the one I bought. He fills a separate bag with seed packets. He pulls a length of heavy-duty rope and coils it and clips it to the outside of the pack. I notice, while he's loading, that he sweats more than the work seems to warrant. The temperature this morning is maybe 65 degrees, and Harold is sweating through his flannel by the time he's done. I file that away. We walk. 9:15 a.m. The reservoir facility is exactly where I remember it. 4 miles from the utility road junction, set back from the county road behind a chain-link perimeter fence. 2-story operations building and 3 auxiliary structures, including the old pump house and a generator shed. The main reservoir itself is behind the operations building, the actual water body, a 30-acre artificial lake that was the town's primary water supply before the main plant took over. And the facility is not empty. There are vehicles parked inside the fence, 4 of them, 2 pickup trucks and a van and an older SUV. There are lights on in the operations building. There's a generator running. I can hear it from the road. Beverly looks at me. I look at the facility. Someone got here first, I say. Yes, Tyler says. Like he was expecting this and it doesn't change anything. I think for a second. Then I walk to the gate. The gate is padlocked with a chain I don't have the key for. It's not a water authority lock. It's something someone put there recently. Through the fence, I can see a man standing on the operations building's front steps. He's watching us. He's carrying a long gun. Shotgun, probably. Hard to tell at this distance. I raise my hand, open palm. Hey, we're not coming in. I just want to talk for a second. The man comes down the steps and walks to the inside of the gate. He's maybe 50, compact, not particularly large, with a look of controlled wariness that I've seen on people who have been alone for a while with too much responsibility. He's got the shotgun in the crook of his arm, pointed at nothing in particular, which is better than other options. How'd you know about this place? He says. I work for the county water authority. I've done inspections out here. He looks at my service shirt, which still has the water authority logo on the chest. Then at the rest of the group. How many of you are infected? He says. Like this is a standard intake question. Maybe it is. Now. None that we know of, I say. No bites, no scratches from infected persons. 1 person has contact exposure. I'm looking at Tyler as I say this. But no dermal breach. Tyler holds up his arms. The man at the gate is still watching us. I'm Frank Odom, he says. I have 7 people in there, and we've been here since 3 a.m. I'm not interested in expanding the group. I understand, I say. I need to tell you something that you might want to hear, though. The operations building. Do you have access to the pump controls? Frank looks at me. The building was unlocked. We got in through the main entrance. The control room is on the 2nd floor. If the generator is providing power to the building, and it sounds like it is, then the pump controls should be live. Do you know how to run them? His face tells me he doesn't. I do, I say. I know this system. I can get water moving in the distribution line that runs from this reservoir to the secondary network. I can run the treatment equipment that's still functional on site. That means your group has running water, real running water, not just the reservoir itself, as long as the chemicals last. Which, last time I checked the storage building was maybe 6 months. I pause. I'm not trying to leverage you. I'm telling you what I can do. You decide what you want to do with that. Frank looks at me for a long time. Then he unlocks the chain and opens the gate. 9:47 a.m. Frank Odom has 7 people in the operations building, and they are not a random assortment. They're a specific kind of group that assembles in the first hours of any serious disaster. The people who believed it was going to be a disaster before it was definitely one. 3 of them are members of Frank's prepper group, which apparently meets regularly in someone's garage and has been preparing for some version of this for years. 2 are his adult sons, both of whom look like slightly younger copies of him. 1 is a woman named Patricia Wells, who is a nurse, a real nurse, hospital trained. which immediately puts her at the top of my list of people to be glad about. And one is an older teenager, a girl named Caitlin Marsh, who is Patricia's niece and had been staying with Patricia when things went bad. We add our group to this: me, Beverly, Tyler, Donna, Harold. And now we're 12 people at an old reservoir facility on the northeast edge of a town that is actively going to pieces. Frank takes me through the building. I can see he's already organized things in there in a reasonable way. The ground floor has supplies sorted in one room, sleeping areas designated in another, and a third room he's using as an office, command, point, with printed maps on the wall and a handwritten list on a whiteboard. He's competent and organized, and also completely wound around his own wariness, like a tourniquet on a limb that stopped bleeding an hour ago. I take the stairs to the second floor. The control room is exactly as I remember it. Rows of monitoring panels, most of them now just decorative since the facility was decommissioned. But the pump control section is on the east wall, and it runs off its own circuit that's connected to the emergency generator line. I flip the right breakers, and the pump control panel comes to life. Indicator lights, flow readings, pressure gauges. The reservoir itself is at 83% capacity, which is good. Frank stands in the door of the control room watching me. "How do you know how to do this?" he says. "It's my job." I'm reading the panel, checking which pumps are still functional. I've been in systems like this since I was 22. Is the water safe to drink? I pause with my hand on the chlorine dosing control. The question I've been waiting for. The reservoir itself probably is. I say carefully. This reservoir takes its intake from the north branch of the river, not the tributary that comes through town. The compound that's whatever's in the town water supply, it got in through the eastern tributary inlet, which feeds the primary intake, which feeds the main treatment plant. This reservoir is on a different water body. Probably, Frank says. He heard that word. I can test it. I have a field meter. It won't tell me everything, but it'll tell me some things. I turn to face him. I want to be clear about what I do and don't know. I believe the town water supply may have been contaminated with an experimental compound that was illegally disposed of by a pharmaceutical company about 30 miles east of here. I believe this compound, possibly altered by the treatment process, is what's causing the behavioral changes we're seeing in the infected population. I don't know that for certain. I don't have lab equipment. I need to find more information. Frank stares at me. Then he says, "Pharmaceutical company. Brentwell Pharma." Something moves in Frank's face. I don't know what it means. "I worked there," he says, 15 years ago, before it was Brentwell. It was a smaller operation then, called Paragon Neuro. I look at him. Paragon Neuro. Neurological research. I worked in logistics, not the labs, but I knew guys who were in the research program. They were doing work on something they called disinhibition therapy, trying to develop a treatment for OCD and certain anxiety disorders, the kind where the brain's inhibitory function is overactive. The idea was to selectively suppress the overactive parts without affecting the rest of the system. He stops. I left in 2010 because the company was sold, and the new management was... He shakes his head. Let's say, I didn't like what direction it was going. They kept the research program after you left? I don't know. I heard they scaled it up. I heard the FDA wasn't happy with their trial results. I heard the program got shelved. He looks out the control room window at the reservoir. I guess shelved doesn't mean destroyed. I turn back to the control panel. "Frank," I say, "I'm going to run this pump system. I'm going to get us water, and I'm going to test what I can test. And then I want to sit down with everyone in this building and share everything I know, because I think the information is more important than the water right now." He's quiet for a second, then, agreed. The rest of day one passes in logistics. I run the pump system. The filtration units on site are old but functional. They don't provide the level of treatment the main plant does, but they're far better than nothing. And with the chlorine dosing adjusted correctly and the sand filters backwashed, I can get the reservoir water to a place that passes my field meter tests. The field meter shows me it's clean for the things I can test for. It can't tell me about Paragon Neuro's experimental compounds, and I know that, but this isn't town water. This is a different source. I test it, and I drink some myself, right in front of everyone, which Tyler laughs at. Is this you proving something? He says. Yes, I say. Harold Cutler helps me get the generator more efficiently fueled from the supply building, which has 2 50-gallon drums of diesel that someone left here years ago. The diesel is old, but the generator is a forgiving machine, which is good. We calculate our runtime. If we run the generator only for the pump system and essential lighting, we've got maybe 2 weeks of fuel, more if we're careful. Patricia Wells, the nurse, sets up a basic medical area in one of the ground floor rooms. She does an assessment of everyone in the group over the course of the afternoon. No serious injuries. Harold's sweating, which she notes and asks him about, and he dismisses as just stress and the heat, which it isn't actually particularly hot today, but Patricia doesn't push. I push. Later. Day 1, late afternoon. I find Harold in the supply room, alone, sitting on a crate. He's got his flannel off and he's looking at his left arm. On his left arm, on the inner forearm, just below the elbow, there is a mark. It's an oval of bruised skin, slightly raised, and I know what it is before I say anything because I've been watching him all day, and I've been waiting for something like this. He looks up when I come in. He doesn't try to cover it. When? I say. His jaw works. Last night, 2 in the morning maybe, on Miller Street, coming out of my store. Someone came out of an alley. I thought it was a drunk. He got me on the arm before I knew what was happening. He looks at the mark. He didn't break skin. I've been checking every 30 minutes. The skin's intact. The bite didn't break skin. No, but it was close. And whatever was in his mouth, if there's something on the surface of the skin, through contact. We don't know the transmission vector, I say. I'm being honest, not reassuring. There's a difference, and Harold seems like a man who knows the difference. If this is a chemical compound, and not a pathogen, then bite transmission might not work the way it does with a virus. The compound got into the water supply. People ingested it. The behaviors are a neurological response to chemical exposure, not a traditional infection. Harold looks at me. Then why are people who get bitten turning? I don't have a clean answer for this. Saliva could carry the compound if it's present in high concentration in the body. Or bites could cause traumatic stress that exacerbates the neurological effects of lower-level exposure someone already had from the water. I pause. I honestly don't know. But you think I might be? I think you should tell Patricia, and I think you should be honest with the group. He's quiet for a long time. I was going to tell you, he says. I wasn't going to hide it forever. I wanted to get to somewhere safe first. Somewhere that had walls between me and all of that. And then I was going to tell. I look at him. He's a man who has spent his life being reliable. I can see that in the way he loaded his truck, and the way he organized the supplies, and the way he's sitting here now, not crying, not panicking, just dealing with a thing that is very bad, with the same face he would deal with anything very bad. Tell Patricia tonight, I say. Don't wait until morning. Okay. I start to leave. Garrett, he says my name like he's testing it. You think there's any chance someone survives it? If they got bitten but it's not a traditional infection and it's a compound, is there any chance someone might not? I don't know, I say. But it's a better situation than if it were a virus. I stop. Turn back. You take any regular medications? He blinks. Metformin. For type 2 diabetes. Been taking it for 8 years. I make a mental note of this. Not because I know what it means yet, but because my brain is still looking for the system, looking for what's causing the noise. Harold tells Patricia that night. I'm not in the room, but I hear it through the door. Harold's voice, steady and low, and Patricia's voice doing the thing medical professionals do, which is asking specific questions in a very calm tone. I don't hear anything alarmed in her voice, which means either she's very good at her job or there's nothing alarmed to be, and I choose to believe the first. The rest of the group finds out in the morning. Frank doesn't react explosively, which I was half expecting. He asks Harold to keep to one side of the building and to minimize shared surfaces. Harold agrees. Nobody leaves. Day 2. Beverly is worse. Not worse in any obvious external way. She's still Beverly, still sharp, still asking the right questions, and contributing to conversations, and doing her share of the work. But I can see something changing in the tempo of her. Little things. She stands in the window looking south for longer than she should. She asks me to repeat things once or twice in the morning that I know she heard the first time. Her hands are slightly unsteady when she pours from a water bottle. I don't say anything yet. I go to the maintenance building at the back of the reservoir facility, and I spend 3 hours doing something I don't tell anyone about. There's a storage room in the maintenance building that has old lab equipment from the facility's active operation years. Water testing supplies, some sampling bottles, pH reagents, and a small spectrometer that is old but works. Not the kind of spectrometer that can analyze arbitrary compounds, but the kind that can be calibrated for specific things. I can't analyze the Paragon Neuro compound directly without knowing what I'm looking for. But if the compound has a specific spectral signature in the UV range, and most organic compounds do, and if I can get a reference, I might be able to build a basic test. I don't have a reference. I have an idea, though. I ask Donna if she remembers anything else from Linda Howarth's emails. She thinks, sitting in the supply room with a mug of hot coffee. We have a camp stove and real coffee from Harold's Supplies. She mentioned a CAS number, Donna says. Like a chemical registry number. I don't remember all of it. Something like 1485. She shakes her head. I can't remember the rest. That's okay. It's not okay. But I'll work with what I have. She also mentioned a brand name, Donna says. The compound. It had an internal name at Paragon Neuro. She referenced it. It was, she called it Velen, or Velen 4, something like that. I write this in my notebook. Velen 4, Day 2, afternoon. I'm on the roof of the operations building. You can get up through a maintenance hatch, doing a scan of the surrounding area with a pair of binoculars from Frank's Supplies. Standard horizon check, twice a day. I've made this part of the routine now, along with the pump readings and the generator fuel check. To the south, the smoke column is thicker than yesterday. There are 2 of them now. To the east, nothing unusual. To the west, I can see the county road where we walked in, and it is empty. Tyler comes up through the hatch and sits next to me. He's been useful, Tyler. Quietly and consistently useful in the way people can be when they find something to do with their hands. He's helped Harold sort the seed supplies, helped Patricia organize the medical kit, carried things when things needed carrying. He doesn't talk constantly, but when he does talk, it's specific and observant. How old are you? I ask. 17. You finished school? I was going to be a senior this year. He says this with a complete lack of drama that is somehow more affecting than if he'd been dramatic about it. I want to be a paramedic. That's why I was doing the volunteer hours. You were good in the tunnel, I say. Calm. I was terrified in the tunnel. I know. I'm saying you were calm about it. He almost smiles. My dad says that's a Bosch thing. He used to say we get quiet when we're scared, instead of loud. He looks south. My dad is in the town. I don't say anything to that. There's nothing to say. He works at the plant on the south side, Tyler says. He doesn't drink tap water because he doesn't like the way it tastes. He buys filtered water. He has for years. He says this like a fact he's been holding on to very carefully. So maybe, I say. Because maybe is real. Maybe is not nothing. We watch the smoke columns for a while. Can I tell you something weird? Tyler says. Yes. At the hospital, the first case. The one they brought in at 1 a.m. He was from the water treatment plant, like I said. But he wasn't the patient. He was there because he'd brought someone in. A coworker, I heard them say. He'd driven a coworker to the hospital because the coworker was acting strange. And while he was in the waiting room, waiting to hear about his coworker, he started acting strange too. I look at him. You're saying 2 plant workers were affected. I'm saying 1 plant worker showed up as a patient. and the guy who brought him in turned in the waiting room about an hour later. Occupational exposure, I say slowly. They would have both had the same level of daily contact with the source water, the same approximate dose over the same period of time. "You're sure you feel okay?" Tyler says, not accusatory, actually asking. I'm quiet for a second, being honest with myself. My short-term memory is fine. My reasoning seems intact. I'm not experiencing any unusual impulse control problems that I'm aware of. I pause, though presumably the compound works by removing the mechanism that would flag the problem, so I'm not entirely able to trust my own assessment. "That's a terrifying sentence," Tyler says. "Yes," I agree. We go back inside. Day 3. Harold is still Harold on day 3. Same face. Same economy of movement. He eats breakfast with everyone. He helps with the morning tasks. His hands are steady. Patricia checks his arm twice a day and documents her findings in a small notebook she's been keeping. The mark on his arm looks exactly the same as it did 2 days ago. No expansion. No additional discoloration. No streaking. Patricia comes to me after the morning check and says, "In every documented case of zombie-type infection in fiction, progressive bite symptoms are what you see. Fever, spreading discoloration, behavioral change. Harold has none of those things." "This isn't a viral infection," I say. "What is it?" I tell her what I know. She listens in the complete way medical people listen, taking notes in her small notebook without asking me to slow down. When I'm done, she says, "So the mechanism isn't biological contamination from the bite. It's chemical exposure over time." That's my working theory. Then Harold isn't going to turn from a surface bite. I think that's probably right. I can't be certain. She looks at her notebook. He's on metformin. He mentioned that. Metformin activates AMP pathways, which affects, among other things, certain neurological inflammatory responses. She taps her pen. I don't know enough about the compound to say this confidently, but if Velin-4 operates through inflammatory pathways, if its mechanism is essentially sustained neurological inflammation that degrades inhibitory function, then a compound that suppresses those pathways might provide some protection, I say, or significantly slow progression. She closes the notebook. I'm a floor nurse, not a neurologist. I'm extrapolating on about 25% of the information I'd want. Extrapolating is all we have right now. Are there diabetics in this group? I don't know. I can ask. Do that, discreetly. Beverly is sitting by the reservoir in the afternoon of day 3, just sitting on an old maintenance bench that someone dragged out to the water's edge years ago. The reservoir is calm today. The surface has that specific gray-blue color that still water takes on under a slightly overcast sky, and she's looking at it. I sit next to her. She doesn't say anything for a minute. I don't either. We've always been okay with quiet, Beverly and I. Some people find quiet with a family member uncomfortable, but we never did. I think it's because she worked with quiet too. She did data entry and records management for most of her career, and she got comfortable with sustained attention on one thing. "Garrett," she says. "Yes, I need to tell you something." I wait. When Patrice called me at midnight, she's looking at the water. "She told me to get you out. She said to call you. But she also said something that I didn't fully tell you before. She said, Beverly, she said, you need to get somewhere with clean water, not town water. You need to get somewhere where someone knows what they're doing with water systems." Beverly stops. She knew. She knew what was in the water. She knew it was the water. That's consistent with what Donna told us. But that's not all. Beverly finally turns to look at me. She said, "And I need you to understand. I was half asleep, and I've been going over this and over this, trying to make sure I'm remembering correctly." She said, "I've been concerned about Beverly for about 2 weeks. Tell her to drink only bottled water, and tell her why." The reservoir is quiet, a bird somewhere in the trees at the east end. "Patrice has been concerned about me for 2 weeks," Beverly says, "because she knew something was happening with the water supply, and she was tracking health impacts, and she was worried about people she knew. People who live in the Northeast Service area. She looks back at the water. That's my address, Northeast Service area. Mom, I've been drinking tap water for 67 years, Garrett. That doesn't mean. I feel strange, she says. Simply. Not dramatically. Beverly Aldous doesn't do drama. I feel strange in a way I can't locate. Like something in the middle of my head is not right. Not present in the way it usually is. She looks at her hands. I'm not confused. I know who I am and where I am and what's happening. But there's something underneath all of that feels like it's got a fault line through it. My chest tightens in a way that has nothing to do with anything I can run a diagnostic on. When did you start feeling this way? I say, keeping my voice flat. I think a couple of weeks ago, honestly. I thought it was the news stress. Everything in the world lately has been stressful, and I thought it was that. She pauses. Patrice's call scared me worse, because I already suspected something was wrong. I take her hand. She lets me. Her hand is the same as it's always been. Slightly cool, slightly dry. The same specific pressure when she squeezes. Patricia is here, I say. The nurse. I know. I'm going to talk to her about you. I know. And I'm going to figure out what this compound is and how it works, and what can be done about it. I say this not as a promise I know I can keep, but as a statement of intent, which is different. Beverly knows the difference. She squeezes my hand once and lets go. Day 4. I go through the maintenance building again more carefully. I'm looking for anything from the active operation period that might give me information. Old water quality reports, inspection documents, anything that crossed through this facility when it was the town's primary water source. In a filing cabinet in the back of the maintenance room, under about 6 years of dust, I find a folder. Quarterly inspection reports from the period when this facility was being phased out, roughly 8 to 10 years ago. Most of them are routine. Turbidity, pH, coliform counts. Normal water authority stuff. The last report in the folder is from about 9 years ago, written by a water quality inspector named Raymond Gruber. It's formatted like all the others, mostly, but the last paragraph is different. It's not in the standard report template language. It reads like Raymond added it outside the form fields, and it says, Note for file. During source water sampling on the east intake, quarterly, 1014. Unusual organic compound detected. Spectrophotometer reading, UV 254 nanometer, showed anomalous absorption at 237 nanometer range, inconsistent with standard NOM profile. Sample retained but degraded before secondary analysis. Reported to supervisor as possible agricultural runoff. No further action taken per supervisor directive. Recommend repeat sampling at east intake, RG. East intake. The reservoir has a west intake, the main one, from the North River branch, and an east intake, smaller, from a drainage tributary that runs, I know this because I know this watershed, along the eastern edge of a property that would be consistent with where Brentwell Pharma's facility is now, or was Paragon Neuro's facility 9 years ago. Raymond Gruber noticed something 9 years ago, and it was filed away and forgot about. I sit down in the dust of the maintenance room with this piece of paper in my hand. 9 years. 9 years of gradual seepage. Low concentration at first, barely registering. The east intake feeding a small portion of the reservoir water blending with the west intake water, and diluting the compound to levels that would look like nothing special on a standard water panel. The problem isn't that it showed up overnight. The problem is that it built slowly, steadily, over years, accumulating in the sediment of the reservoir, washing into the intake with every rain, getting into the distribution system in concentrations so low that nobody got sick fast enough to draw a clear line, until the concentration hit a threshold. Or until Brentwell Pharma's disposal increased recently, which is consistent with Donna's account of the EPA finding describing recent irregularities in disposal records, which implies they'd been doing it for years but ramped up. 9 years of slow, quiet contamination, and then a threshold, and then within weeks, critical mass. And in the middle of all of this, my treatment plant, my chloramine process, possibly changing the compound into something more potent with every cycle. I stay in the maintenance room for about 20 minutes, just sitting with this. Then I stand up and take the inspection report to the control room, and I start doing something that might be the most important thing I've done since I walked out of that tunnel. I'm going to find a way to close the east intake valve for this reservoir. The east intake valve is at the base of the reservoir's eastern embankment. I find it on the original facility drawings, which are framed on the control room wall, the kind of thing that used to be standard in water facilities before everything went digital. The valve is a 6-inch butterfly valve with a manual override. It hasn't been operated in probably 8 years. It's going to be a project. I take Tyler and Harold with me. It takes 2 hours, a can of spray lubricant, and one of Harold's pipe wrenches, but we get it closed. The east intake is now sealed. Whatever is coming in from that tributary is no longer entering this reservoir. Standing at the embankment with the valve finally closed, Harold looks east toward where the tributary comes from. "You think that matters much at this point?" he says. "For this water source, yes. For the town water supply, no." I wipe my hands on my work pants. The town water supply is already saturated. This reservoir is on a separate system. If we manage what comes in from that east tributary, this is clean water. And if we can get the main plant to stop treating the contaminated source water with chloramine, then whatever Velon 4 is in the distribution system gradually metabolizes or settles out. Without active dosing, without new contamination from the source, and without the treatment reaction producing more of the altered compound. I stop. It's slow, it's measured in weeks, maybe months. And for people who are already severely affected, I don't know if removing the source makes a difference. I don't have the neurology background to know if the damage is reversible. Harold is quiet. For people in the early stages, I say, hearing myself say it, not looking at Harold, and not looking toward the operations building where Beverly is. For people with lower cumulative exposure, removal of the source might be enough. Harold looks at me. He hears what I'm not saying. He's a perceptive man, Harold. He doesn't call it out. "How do we stop the main plant from treating?" he asks. "We'd need to get to the plant." "Which is in town." "Yes." We stand at the reservoir embankment in the morning light. The water is flat and gray-blue and unthreatening. The sound of the valve closing was, I thought, one of the better sounds I've heard recently. Day 5. Something comes to the perimeter fence at 2 a.m. I'm in the control room doing a night reading check when the motion light on the east side of the fence triggers. I go to the window. In the light, I can see a figure at the fence. One infected person, alone, standing at the fence gripping the chain link, not shaking it, just holding it, facing in. His head is tracking some sound, probably the generator, and his body language is the specific stillness of something that is locked onto a stimulus and is waiting for a signal it can follow. I watch him for a long time. I don't go outside. I don't make noise. I watch him. He stands at the fence for about 40 minutes. Then, for no reason I can identify, maybe a sound from the south, maybe just the random drift of whatever remains of his attention, he turns and walks away into the dark. I write in my notebook, attracted to generator sound, left when stimulus changed or stimulus depleted. No apparent recognition of fence as obstacle. Did not attempt to climb or breach. Movement is toward sound sources, not directed toward specific targets. This is consistent with what I understand about the compound. It's not producing a predator. It's not creating something with enhanced cognition or directed malice. It's producing something that has lost the inhibitory circuits that govern appropriate social behavior, including the inhibition of aggression toward other people. The thing at the fence doesn't want to hurt me. It doesn't want anything. It's just following the gradient of stimulation, like water follows gravity. This also means, I write, that reducing sensory output from the facility is a viable defensive strategy. Generator noise management, light discipline, minimizing unusual smells from cooking. I spend the rest of the night writing up a practical protocol for the facility. It's the most useful thing I can do at 3 a.m. that doesn't require going anywhere. Frank finds me in the control room at 7 a.m. the next morning, when I haven't slept. He reads the protocol document over my shoulder. I can feel him reading it. the specific body language of someone taking information in carefully. "This is good," he says. "Thank you." The generator noise is the main problem. He sits down in the other control room chair. "I've been thinking about this since last night. We could run it only at specified hours, charge batteries when it's running, then switch to battery power for the off hours. The charging cycle is the loudest part. If we do it during midday, when ambient noise is highest." "That's good thinking," I say. He looks at me. "You don't sleep much." "I sleep fine. I work nights." "You've been working nights for how long?" 6 years. He nods. This is the kind of nod that says he understands something about a person. "I worked the graveyard shift for 12 years, he says. "Before I started the prepper group. I worked maintenance at a plastics plant east of here." There's a pause that might be the companionable silence of two people who have spent a lot of time alone at night with machinery. Or it might be both of us deciding how much we trust each other. Probably some of both. "The prepper group," I say. "What were you prepping for?" "Originally, financial collapse, then pandemic, then different things. The what always mattered less than the how. How to have water. How to have food. How to make sure the people you're responsible for don't die because something that should have been predictable wasn't planned for." "You had 4 vehicles in the lot when we arrived," I say. 7 people. You moved fast. I've got a contact list, 12 numbers. In a real emergency, you call the list and you have a meeting point. 4 hours after the emergency, that's who showed up." He pauses. 5 people on the list didn't answer or couldn't get here. I try not to think about the people who didn't answer. I understand this. I have my own version of this problem. "I want to go back into town," I say, "to the main treatment plant." Frank looks at me. "Not right away. I need more information first, and I need to make sure Beverly is." I stop. I need to make sure things here are stable before I take myself away from them. But the plant is the point of control for what's happening to the water supply. If I can get to the plant and shut down the chloramine treatment process, the specific reaction I think is making the compound worse, I can at least stop actively producing more of whatever the affected population has in their systems. "You're not going alone," Frank says. "I wasn't planning to. When do you want to go?" "Give me 2 more days to gather information and make sure the facility is as stable as I can make it." He nods. 2 days. Day 6. Donna comes to me with something. She's been quiet the last few days. Not withdrawn, just processing, I think. She has the slightly elsewhere look of someone whose mother is probably dead and who is handling that fact by keeping busy. I've watched her help Patricia with the medical notes, help Tyler organize the food supply inventory, help Harold sort the seed packets. She works. She doesn't talk much. But she comes to me on day 6 holding her phone. The battery finally died. But before it did, I got one more signal this morning. Brief, up on the roof. I got through to email. "You have an email?" "My mother's email. The one I told you about. The personal account she used to receive the EPA documents." She holds out the phone. "Dead now." There was one more message from Linda Howarth. Sent 4 days ago, right around when the outbreak started. I only saw the preview in the notification. I didn't have time to open it before the signal died. What did the preview say? Donna looks at her dead phone. It said, "Beverly, I should have sent this sooner. The compound is more water-soluble in alkaline conditions, and your treatment plant runs alkaline. Contact the water authority immediately and tell them to..." She shakes her head. That's where the preview cut off. "Tell them to what?" I say it softly, knowing she can't answer. "I don't know. Acidify the source water? Drop the pH?" I don't know what she was going to say. Donna looks at me. "You're the water authority. What would changing the pH to acidic do?" I think. In more acidic conditions, lower pH, chloramine formation is less efficient. The chloramination reaction doesn't go to completion as well, which means if the compound requires the chloramine reaction to produce its more potent form, I stop myself. In more acidic conditions, you'd end up with less of the altered compound in the distribution water. But dropping pH in a water supply is tricky. If you go too far, you start corroding the pipes and you get different chemical problems. But it's a lever you could pull. Yes, it's a lever I could pull at the plant. She looks at me steadily. Then you need to go to the plant. I know. And you need to go soon, because if Linda Howarth sent that email on day 0, and she hadn't sent it sooner, that means she'd been holding back that information because she was afraid of something. And the fact that she sent it on day 0 means she stopped being afraid because something worse had happened. Like the whole system collapsing anyway, I say. Like that, Donna says. And that means she's either in hiding or she's gone. Which means the information about this compound might be in a dead woman's sent folder on a private email account. Which means nobody official is left who knows exactly how to stop this. Except maybe me, I say. Except maybe you. I sit with Beverly that evening. She's in the room she's claimed on the first floor, which has a cot and her bag and the small window that faces east. She's reading. She brought 2 paperback books in her bag because Beverly Aldous always has something to read, even when the world is ending. I tell her about Linda Howarth's email, what Donna remembered from the preview. Beverly puts her book down. Tell them to acidify the water. That's what I think it was going to say. I need to get to the plant to do anything about it. She nods. Then, Garrett, say what you're not saying. I look at my hands. You think I can be helped if you fix the water, she says. Not a question, as a statement that has been sitting somewhere in her all day. I think people with lower cumulative exposure might, yes, if the source is removed, if the active treatment process is changed. The compound has a half-life. Everything does. How long? I don't know. Weeks, probably. Possibly longer. But every dose of what's in the current distribution water adds to the load, if the new exposure stops. I could get better, she says. You could stay where you are, which is where you are right now, which is functional, Beverly. You're still you. She considers this with the particular face she makes when she's deciding whether to argue about something. I'm staying me, she says. For now. I nod. Go to the plant, she says. Fix it. That's more important than sitting here watching me feel slightly not right. I'm not. It's not only about you. I know it's not. But it is also about me. She picks her book back up. Go tomorrow. Don't wait. Day 7. Frank, Tyler, and I drive the county road at 5:30 a.m. in Frank's truck, which is larger than Frank's 2 sons' vehicles and has the most ground clearance. We take the utility road east rather than the county road directly into town. My road, the one I know. We're carrying Frank's shotgun, a crowbar, and my work tools. I'm carrying my clipboard. I carry my clipboard to work, regardless of whether I'm taking the truck into an unraveling city or not. Some habits. The town at 5:30 a.m. is not the same as the town at 5:30 a.m. on any previous day I can remember. There are cars stopped in the road, some of them at odd angles, most of them empty. There are broken storefront windows. Not many, but specific. The kind that come from impact at shoulder height, which tells you something. There are no lights on in most buildings. The ones that are lit have a specific quality of accidental illumination, like they were left on and not turned off by anyone. We see infected on 3 separate occasions on the route from the utility road to the treatment plant. They're always alone or in pairs. They move toward sound. When Frank's truck goes past, a few of them orient and follow for some distance. But the truck moves faster than they do, and they don't have the coordination to intercept. They don't look like anything from a movie. That's the most disorienting thing. They look like people who are very sick and very confused. Shambling is a word that fits some of them. Others are walking almost normally, just in wrong directions, wrong rhythms, as if the direction-finding system is intact, but the goal-setting system that should be driving it is gone. They don't try the car doors, Tyler says, watching one of them as we pass. They can't conceive of car doors as an option, I say. The compound removes higher planning function. They can follow sound. They can move toward stimulus. They can bite when something is close enough. That's the extent of it. People, Frank says quietly. Not a challenge, just saying it. People, I agree. The treatment plant's main gate is closed but not blocked. I have my key. I've had my key since I started here 6 years ago, and it's on a ring in my jacket pocket. And when I take it out and unlock the gate, it feels like the most normal thing I've done in a week. Inside the fence, the plant looks fine. That's the surreal thing. The plant looks completely fine. The equipment is running because it's automated, because water treatment plants are designed to keep operating with minimum human intervention, because the systems were built to handle emergencies by continuing to function. The pumps are running. The aeration tanks are aerating. The chloramine dosing is proceeding on its normal automated schedule. The building is empty of people. I do a quick sweep of all 3 floors and find nothing. No injured, no infected, no one. The last handoff note on the board in the break room is from the 8 a.m. day shift 2 days ago. Whoever was on that shift left and didn't come back, and no one replaced them. I go to the chemical storage room and I check the chloramine dosing system. The system uses on-site chlorine and ammonia in a specific ratio to produce chloramine in the contact chamber before the water enters distribution. The ammonia feed is what I want. If I can restrict the ammonia feed, bring it close to 0, the system will essentially be producing free chlorine instead of chloramine. Free chlorine is still a disinfectant, still effective at managing pathogens, but without the ammonia, the specific reaction that I believe is producing the altered form of Velon 4 doesn't proceed. This is a guess. I want to be honest about that. It's an educated guess, built on incomplete information and a dead chemist's email preview, and my own 6 years of understanding what this system does. But it's the best available guess, and it's consistent with everything I know. I reduce the ammonia feed to minimum. I adjust the chlorine dose upward slightly to compensate. I change the pH adjustment settings, dropping the target pH from 7.6 to 7.1, more toward the acidic side of neutral, enough to further discourage the chloramine production pathway without going far enough to cause pipe corrosion problems. I document everything I'm doing in my notebook in detail, because if someone comes behind me and wants to understand what I changed and why, I want them to have that record. Tyler is standing at the window, watching the road outside while I work. Frank is doing a walkthrough of the plant, checking things, because Frank does not stand still in unfamiliar spaces. It takes me 90 minutes. At the end of it, I stand in the dosing room and I look at the settings and I think about whether I've done the right things in the right order and whether the physics and chemistry of it hold up under pressure. I think they do. I think this is right. I think about Beverly. Done? Tyler says. Done. He nods. He doesn't ask what I did. He trusts that I did the right thing, and that if I wanted to explain it, I would. I appreciate this about him. Frank comes back from his walkthrough. He has a box under his arm. Storage room has 20 pounds of emergency chlorine tablets and a box of personal protective equipment. Also found a case of bottled water and a box of energy bars that someone left in the break room. I look at the box. The bottled water. In the break room of the treatment plant. Someone who worked here, maybe for years, keeping their own supply, because they didn't want to drink the tap water. Someone who worked here and knew what went through this system every day. Grab all of it, I say. The drive back is harder, more infected on the roads. Not a horde, nothing like a horde, but the morning is progressing and there are more of them out. Frank takes some routes I wouldn't have known about. Back roads through the south part of town that avoid the main streets. At one point, we stop for 2 full minutes while a group of 7 or 8 infected, all moving together not as a coordinated unit, but just as a group who've been attracted to the same sound source and are heading in the same direction, cross the road in front of us. 7 or 8 people who were, a week ago, just people. Nobody says anything. On the utility road, almost back to the facility, Tyler says, "Did you see the man with the blue jacket? In the group?" "No," I say. "He was wearing a high school gym jacket. Our school's colors. He's looking out the side window. He wasn't from my year. He was younger." He stops. "Never mind." Tyler. No, let's just get back." Day 7, evening. Patricia tells me about Harold. She finds me in the control room and she says, quietly, carefully, Harold's arm is healing. I look at her. The mark from the bite. It's healing. Normal healing. The bruising is fading. The swelling is gone. There's no infection, no temperature, nothing aberrant. She's looking at her notes. And Harold. I've been monitoring his behavior closely, Garrett, as carefully as I can, and he is completely himself. More himself than some of the people who were never bitten, frankly, who are under significant stress. The metformin, I say. I've been reading every medical source I have offline on my tablet. Metformin and AMP activation. There's some research, old research. It's not definitively relevant, but there's some, indicating that AMP activation has neuroprotective effects related to inhibitory neurotransmitter function. She sets the notebook down. If Velin-4 degrades inhibitory function specifically, and if AMP activation partially compensates for that degradation, Harold's medication might be stopping it in him, I say, or significantly slowing it. Yes. She pauses. Caitlin is also on medication. She mentioned it today, actually. She has Adderall, and she takes Adderall, which works completely differently. But, Patricia pauses again. She's been one of the most cognitively stable people here over the last week. Alert, organized, not showing any signs of disinhibition. Different mechanism, I say. But dopaminergic regulation, same neighborhood of brain function. Yes. We look at each other. Two people who are not pharmacologists or neurologists, or anyone particularly qualified to be having this conversation, having it anyway, because we're the most qualified people here. We need to get this information out, I say, not just to survive here. We need to find a way to get this to someone with the resources to act on it, if metformin provides protection. It's one of the most produced drugs in the world, Patricia says. It's cheap, it's generic, it's in every pharmacy. If there are organized groups out there with access to pharmacies, this changes something about their survival rates. Yes, she looks at her notes. But we need to find those groups first. Day 8. I sleep for 11 hours on day 8. I don't plan to. I close my eyes after breakfast, and I wake up at 9 p.m., and the light in the room has that thick evening quality, and Beverly is sitting in the chair near the door reading her second book. You needed it, she says without looking up. I lie still for a moment, taking inventory of how I feel, the way I've been doing every day, checking for any cognitive slippage. Memory, intact. I can walk through the sequence of the past week without gaps. Reasoning. I can work through the metformin hypothesis from the beginning and arrive at the same conclusion I had yesterday. Impulse control. I have no urge to do anything I shouldn't do. How are you feeling? I ask. Beverly looks up from her book. She considers the question seriously, which I appreciate, because she could deflect. Better today than yesterday, she says. I sit up. Better how? The fault line thing. It's less. It's still there, but less. She watches me. Does that mean something? I changed the plant's treatment process yesterday, I say. It would be very fast for a systemic change to show results. But also, you haven't been drinking town water for a week. The dose coming in is 0. The compound has a half-life. It metabolizes. I pause. Your body is clearing it. Beverly considers this with the same practical face she uses for everything. Good, she says. Like, good, next item. Mom. Yes. You knew when you called me. You knew something was wrong with you. A pause. She looks at her book, then at me. I suspected. I wasn't sure. I was afraid. That's why you called at 4 a.m. I'd been awake for 2 hours trying to decide. I thought, if I called and it was nothing, I'd embarrass myself and wake you up. But if I called and it wasn't nothing, and I hadn't called, she stops, sets the book down. You're my son. I'd rather embarrass myself. I think about 4 a.m., the ring of the phone. My initial response, which was, here we go. What's the false alarm this time? The fact that I still picked up. Mom, I say, I almost didn't call back once. About 2 years ago. You called me about the gas smell and I sat there for a second before I picked up. She looks at me. I know. I need you to know that when I saw your name on the screen at 4 a.m., I picked up immediately. Immediately. She's quiet for a second. That's a very Garrett way to apologize for something, she says. I'm not. I stop. I suppose I am. Don't. She picks her book back up. You came. That's the whole thing. Day 9. We get a radio signal. Frank has a hand crank emergency radio that he'd been scanning since day 2, finding nothing but static and the occasional emergency tone that plays automatically from the broadcast system. On day 9, at around 11 a.m., a voice comes through. It's a man's voice, clear and relatively calm, and he's reading what sounds like a pre-written statement. He's saying, "Any survivors in the county who can receive this broadcast, there is an organized shelter point established at the Harwick County Fairgrounds. The fairgrounds are located on Route 44, approximately 12 miles west of Harwick Township. The shelter has medical personnel, food supplies, and security. If you can travel safely, come west on Route 44. He repeats it. Then it cycles again, which means it's a recorded loop. Everyone in the facility who is awake is in the control room for the second repeat. Frank's face is doing the careful reading everything thing he does when new information is entering the picture. Patricia is taking notes. Tyler is standing very still. 12 miles west, Frank says. On 44. I know where the fairgrounds are, I say. It's a reasonable location. Big facilities, parking lots, relatively defensible if you close it right. How do we verify it's real and not a trap? Frank's son, the older one whose name is Dale, says this from the door. You don't, completely, Frank says. But the loop format and the specific information format sound like emergency management protocol. That's standard language for a shelter broadcast. Donna is standing at the back of the room. Her face is complicated. County emergency management, she says. Like my mother's office. Yes, Frank says, carefully. But it might mean some of those people got out and organized. It doesn't mean. I know, Donna says. I know what it means and doesn't mean. She's looking at nothing in particular. I still need to know what happened to her. I spend day 9 making a decision about the fairgrounds. The decision is this. We can't all go. The reservoir facility is too valuable to abandon, and we don't know enough about the fairgrounds situation to move 12 people and all our supplies without more information. But some of us need to go make contact. Specifically, I need to go make contact, because what I know about the water supply situation needs to reach people with resources to act on it. I also need to go because there's something else at the main treatment plant that I didn't get on the first trip in. In the filing room, the physical filing room with paper records, there are original water quality reports going back to the plant's founding. If Raymond Gruber's inspection 9 years ago at the reservoir triggered any follow-up documentation at the main plant, I want it. I want every piece of paper that has the word Velen on it, or references to the East intake or to EPA communication. You're going back to the plant, Tyler says. Yes, I'm coming. I know. I look at Frank. Will you hold the facility? He looks at me for a long moment. This is the question of whether he trusts me, and he's making the decision in real time. He extends his hand. I shake it. Come back, he says. That's the plan. Day 10. Tyler and Donna and I take Frank's truck again, but this time we go west first, toward Route 44, before going east into town. I want to locate the fairground situation before I go to the plant, in case the plant trip goes sideways and I need a secondary option. The drive west is cleaner than the drive into town was. We see almost no infected on the county roads. The population density is lower out here. People spread farther apart, and the compound spread primarily through town water, which means rural homes on well water may be largely unaffected. We see people on 2 occasions. The first time, they see us coming and they run. I stop the truck and I don't pursue, because chasing people in a zombie outbreak is a very bad way to establish trust. The second time, it's an older couple on a farmhouse porch who watch us drive past without any expression I can read. Route 44 at mile marker 12. The fairgrounds. There are lights, there are vehicles, A lot of vehicles, maybe 60 or 70, parked in the main lot. There is a fence made of what looks like farm gates, and chain link and wire, not perfect but functional, and there are people on the inside of it. At the main gate, a woman in a county vest, County Parks and Rec, from the logo, not emergency management, waves us down. She asks our names, whether we've been bitten or scratched, where we came from, and how many people are with us. I tell her we have 12 at the reservoir facility, and I tell her what I do for a living, and I watch her face change when I say water authority. "Come in," she says. "There's someone you need to talk to." The someone is a man named Dr. Carl Whitfield, who is a county health officer, which is not the same as a doctor who treats patients. He's a PhD in public health, administrative, the kind of person who normally manages things like vaccination campaigns and restaurant inspection schedules. He's maybe 50, wearing a county polo shirt and looking like he hasn't slept in a week, which he probably hasn't. He takes me to a tent that's functioning as some kind of operations center. There are maps on a folding table. There's a woman with a laptop running on a battery pack, doing something, and 2 men standing at the far side looking at a printed photograph. Carl Whitfield shakes my hand, and then he says, "You work at the Harwick main treatment plant." "Yes." "Then you probably know that we've had 2 water authority people here since day 2, and neither of them could tell us what was wrong with the water, except that something was." "I can tell you what's wrong with the water," I say. He looks at me for a second with the expression of a man who has been carrying something heavy and just heard someone offer to help. "Sit down," he says. I talk for about 2 hours. Everything I know, everything I've pieced together, in order. The compound, Paragon Neuro, the EPA report, Donna's account of Linda Howarth's emails, Raymond Gruber's 9-year-old inspection report, the chloramine reaction hypothesis, what I changed at the plant on day 7, the metformin finding. Dr. Whitfield listens. He takes notes. The woman with the laptop types things occasionally. The 2 men at the far side of the tent come closer around the halfway point and listen without saying anything. When I'm done, Dr. Whitfield is quiet for about 30 seconds. "We have a pharmacist here," he says. "She's been distributing what she could bring from her pharmacy. She has metformin in stock." "How much?" "Enough for maybe 40 people to have a month's supply. She has more at the pharmacy. It's one of the stores we've been sending teams into, but we didn't know why to prioritize it." "Prioritize it," I say. "And if there are any people here showing early symptoms of disinhibition, confusion, unusual aggression, any behavioral changes, get them on it immediately." "And your treatment plant adjustment," he says. "You think that's helping?" "I think it stopped making things worse. I don't know how much the current distribution water was affecting people outside the immediate town area. The compound dilutes significantly once it's past the primary distribution zone, but stopping the chloramine reaction with the compound should reduce new exposure in anyone still on town water." He nods slowly. Then, "We have contact with a state emergency management team. They're operating out of a facility 2 counties south. They've been trying to understand the vector, why this outbreak started here and not somewhere else. I can get you on a radio call with them." "I want to make that call," I say. "But first I need to go back to the main plant and pull all the water quality records from the files. Physical files. There's documentation there that connects the regulatory history to what we know about the compound. That's the chain of evidence that matters." "You're going back into town," Whitfield says. "Tomorrow morning." He looks at Tyler, who has been sitting quietly off to my side this whole time. "He's with you?" Whitfield says. "He's with me." Whitfield looks at Tyler. Tyler meets his eyes and doesn't look away. "How old are you, son?" "Old enough," Tyler says. Whitfield almost smiles. "Be back by midday," he says. I call the facility from a radio at the fairgrounds that evening. Frank's voice comes through, crackly and familiar. "We're okay," he says. "Harold's fine. Your mother is asking when you're coming back." I talk to Beverly briefly. Her voice sounds more like itself than it did 2 days ago. More present. The clarity is coming back. "Tomorrow afternoon," I tell her, "I have one more stop." "The plant?" The plant. Come back safe, she says. And then, in a tone that I don't have any particular words for, Garrett, I called you at 4 a.m. because I knew you'd come. Whatever you thought about the call before you answered it, I knew. I know, Mom, she says. Your truck is still parked at the junction box building. I hadn't thought about the truck. I know. Keys are in your jacket. I know, Mom. Good, she says. Okay. Go do the plant. Bring the records. I hang up the radio. Tyler is standing a few feet away, looking at the fairground lot. All those vehicles, all those people who got out. He has a specific look that I recognize because I've had it, which is the look of calculating odds on someone specific. Tyler, I say. He looks at me. Tomorrow, when we're at the plant, the records room, it might take some time. I know, he says. Before we go in, before we go anywhere near the plant, I hold his gaze. We're going to go past the route that runs by your father's plant. He's absolutely still. I'm not promising anything, I say. I'm just saying we'll go that way. He nods once, tight. Then he looks back at the lot. Day 11, 5:45 a.m. The drive into town on day 11 is quieter than day 7. I don't know why exactly, whether the infected population is sleeping or dispersed or something else, but the streets are calmer in a way that feels less like safety and more like an interlude, like the town is between states. We go past the South Industrial area, where Tyler's father works. Tyler is in the passenger seat, and he doesn't ask me to stop, and I don't stop. But as we drive along the perimeter road of the industrial park, I go slowly, and Tyler is looking through every gap in the fence line, every window we can see, every figure on the street. He doesn't say anything. On the far end of the industrial park, there's a diner with a big parking lot that's visible from the road. There are 3 cars in the lot and a light on in the diner's interior. Not an abandoned left-on light, an intentional light. And through the window, shapes, people, the right kind of people, the kind that are sitting and not aimlessly moving. Tyler sees it the same moment I do. I stop the truck. He looks at me. I look at him. He looks at the diner. There's a handmade sign in the window. Can't read it from here. You want to go look? I say. Yes, already reaching for the door. Careful, I say. Evaluate from outside first. Don't go straight in. He's already out of the truck. I park and we go together. Tyler walks fast. I keep pace. The sign in the diner window says, "Survivors inside. Knock first" in red spray paint. Tyler knocks. A face appears at the window. Not Tyler's father. Not as far as I can tell. A woman, maybe 45. She looks at us. She looks past us at the street. She unlocks the door. Inside, there are 11 people. Some of them are workers from the industrial park. I can see from their uniforms. Some are residents who just ended up here. And in the back booth, over a cold cup of coffee, is a man who looks up when Tyler and I walk in, and who has the same specific jaw as Tyler, and whose first words when he sees his son are not words at all, just a very short, sharp intake of breath. I step back and look at the ceiling. Give them that moment. Tyler's father is named Greg Bosch. He's been in the diner since day 2 with this group. He uses bottled water, has been for years, as Tyler said, and he is completely unaffected. He's organized this group with the same quiet efficiency Tyler has, which apparently comes from somewhere. I tell Greg about the fairgrounds, the route, the timing. I tell him about Dr. Whitfield and the metformin findings. I write the fairgrounds location and the radio frequency on a napkin, and I give it to the woman who opened the door, who has been leading the practical management of this group. I give them the water bottles from the truck. Tyler and his father have maybe 10 minutes. I go to the truck and make a note in my clipboard and don't listen. When Tyler comes out of the diner, he walks straight to the truck and gets in. His face is doing several things that I give him the privacy of not commenting on. Okay, he says. Okay, I say. I start the truck. We go to the plant. The plant records room takes 40 minutes to sort through properly. I pull every file from the past 12 years that has anything to do with source water quality, EPA communications, or anything flagged as anomalous. I find 3 more references to unusual UV absorbance readings over the years, not filed together, spread across different quarterly reports, each time attributed to natural organic matter variation, and not followed up. I find a letter, buried in a regulatory correspondence folder from 6 years ago, from a state EPA compliance office. It's addressed to the plant's then director. It says that a neighboring facility, not named, but described as a pharmaceutical research operation in the adjacent county, has received a notice of violation related to waste disposal practices and asks the Water Authority to increase monitoring of source water intake quality for any changes in organic compound levels. There is a handwritten response at the bottom of the letter, the plant director's initials and 1 sentence. Acknowledged. Per legal counsel, no additional action taken. Per legal counsel. I put this letter in my folder with everything else. Tyler is reading the copy of this letter over my shoulder. He doesn't say anything. His jaw is tight. I think about the fact that I work for this water authority, have worked for it for 6 years, have been testing this water and treating this water without knowing any of this, have sat in that break room drinking coffee and never suspected that the answer to why a man in a hospital showed up at 1 a.m. with wrong eyes was sitting in a folder in a records room down the hall from where I ate my lunch. The break room. The case of bottled water in the break room. Someone knew. Someone who worked there had figured it out, or suspected enough to not drink the tap water, and said nothing and just kept bringing their own bottles in. I don't know who. The initials on the regulatory letter are from a director who retired 4 years ago. I put the bottled water case from the break room in the truck. I take all the files. Driving back to the fairgrounds on day 11, with Tyler and the file box, and the bottled water, and the sound of the truck on the empty roads, and the smoke columns to the south that are smaller today, maybe going out, maybe running out of fuel. I think about Patrice, Donna's mother who called Beverly at midnight and said the right things and isn't there anymore. I think about Linda Howarth's cut-off email, the thing she was about to say that nobody got to hear the end of. I think about Raymond Gruber, 9 years ago, standing at the east intake of the old reservoir and looking at a spectrophotometer reading that meant something, and writing a note in the report that nobody ever followed up on. I think about the treatment plant running on its automated schedule, doing exactly what it's supposed to do, treating the water the way it was designed to treat the water, and in doing so, taking something bad and making it worse, every day, for however many months or years this has been building. Systems don't fail dramatically, usually. They fail incrementally. You get one anomalous reading, you attribute it to normal variation, you get another one, you add it to the first one, and you still get a small number. You get a regulatory letter, and you consult your lawyer, and you do nothing. You get a complaint, and you file it. You get a dead woman's private email with a truncated final message, and you get a retirement folder, and you get a 9-year-old note in a filing cabinet. And then you get a call at 4 a.m. from your mother, crying. And then 3 hours later, the town. At the fairgrounds, Dr. Whitfield takes the files. He goes through them in the tent with the maps, and the laptop woman and the 2 men. And after about an hour, he comes back out and shakes my hand again. I'm getting the state team on radio in 4 hours, he says. Will you be here? Yes. Good. I go find Tyler, who's at the water station on the far side of the fairgrounds. He's getting a cup of water and staring at nothing. You okay? I ask. No. He says it plainly. But I'm not in a way that makes me useless. That's the main thing. Yes, I say. That's the main thing. The radio call with the state emergency management team is 45 minutes long. There are 3 people on their end, and the connection is intermittent. I explain everything from the beginning. Again, more formally, because these are officials who are going to make decisions based on what I tell them, and I want the logical chain to be clear. They ask questions I can answer, and questions I can't. The ones I can't, I say I can't. I don't dress up a guess in certainty. At the end, the woman who seems to be leading the state team, I never catch her name, just her voice, calm and efficient, says, The metformin information. Can you confirm the evidence level on that? Low confidence in the mechanism, high confidence in the observed outcome, I say. Harold Cutler was bitten, has shown no progression in 11 days, is on metformin. Patricia Wells, who is a trained nurse, has been monitoring him and finds nothing indicative of progression. She has a hypothesis about AMP and neurological inhibition pathways, but she's working without specialist resources. What we have is one data point that's strongly suggestive. One data point, the state team voice says. I know, I say. But you might want to move quickly on the pharmacies anyway. A pause. Then, the water treatment adjustment you made. The chloramine reduction. Yes. Are you confident that's reversibly adjustable? That if our technical team has a different recommendation, the system can be changed? Completely. All my changes are documented. The automated systems will hold whatever settings I entered until someone changes them. Nothing I did is permanent. Good. We're going to send a team to the plant. We'd like you to be available to advise. I'll be available, I say. I think about the reservoir facility, about Beverly and Frank and Harold and the rest. 12 miles east, on a gravel utility road, behind a chain-link fence, sitting at the edge of a reservoir that has a closed east intake valve. I need to bring my people here first, I say. From the reservoir facility. Once they're here and safe, I'm completely available. Understood, the voice says. Day 12. I drive back to the reservoir facility in the morning, alone this time. Tyler stays at the fairgrounds, which is a decision I watch him make and understand without asking about it. The drive northeast, the utility road, the gravel service track, the chain-link fence with Frank's padlock on the gate. I honk twice when I pull up, because that's the signal I established with Frank before I left, and he's at the gate within a minute. He looks at me through the fence before he opens the chain. Good news? He asks. Mostly good news, I say. He opens the gate. I park inside, and I go find Beverly first. She's on the morning bench by the reservoir with her coffee and her second book, which she's finished now. She's watching the water. I sit next to her and tell her everything. The fairgrounds, Dr. Whitfield, the state team, what I changed at the plant, the records I found. When I get to the part about the letter, per legal counsel, no additional action taken, she closes her eyes. Not dramatically, just closes them. Sits with that for a few seconds. They knew, she says. Someone knew, I say. I don't know how far the knowledge went. That's for other people to work out. Patrice was working it out, Beverly says. Yes, and she paid for that, apparently. I think so. Beverly opens her eyes, looks at the reservoir. Her face is more Beverly than it's been since I picked her up from her house 11 days and a different world ago. The water here is clean, she says. Yes, and I'm going to keep getting better. Yes. She nods, picks up her empty coffee mug, studies the bottom of it as though there's something worth reading there. I should have made another cup this morning. I should have made another cup and stayed on this bench for the whole day and not moved. She looks at me. Instead, I'm going to have to pack again, aren't I? The fairgrounds has more resources, I say. Medical support, more people, better security. I know, she stands up. I'll go pack. Harold Cutler, when I tell him we're moving to the fairgrounds, nods and starts immediately taking apart the supply organization in the ground floor room. Methodical, no wasted motion. He's still himself. Completely still himself. Harold, I say. He looks up. I think I know why you're okay, I say. I tell him about the metformin hypothesis. He listens. When I'm done, he looks at his arm, where the bite mark is almost completely healed. He flexes his hand a couple of times. Then he says, 8 years I've been taking that pill and resenting it. Don't resent it anymore, I say. He makes a sound that might be a laugh. Then he goes back to organizing the supplies. We load both of Frank's vehicles and my service truck with everything we want to take, and we leave the reservoir facility on the afternoon of day 12. Frank padlocks the gate behind us. He keeps the key. We might come back, he says, looking at the facility one more time through the chain link. We might, I agree. We drive west on the county road, 12 miles to Route 44, the convoy of 3 vehicles moving through a landscape that is neither the world we left nor whatever the world is going to become. The sky is clear. The roads are empty in the specific way they've been empty for almost 2 weeks, which is a kind of empty that has a before and after built into it. The memory of traffic layered under the absence of traffic. Beverly is in the passenger seat of my service truck. She has her books in her bag and her phone that hasn't had signal in a week, but she keeps it charged anyway on the truck's USB because it has photos on it. She's watching the road. "You know what I keep thinking about?" she says. "What?" "The Tuesday morning feeling. You know what I mean? Tuesday morning at 8 o'clock when the world is just going, when everybody's going somewhere and the roads are busy in a normal way, and the stores are open and the coffee is hot and it's just ordinary." "Yes," I say. I keep thinking about it and I can't remember specifically what it felt like. Like I can describe it, but I can't feel the feeling of it. She looks out the window at the county road, which is empty. That's the thing I want back the most. Not any specific thing, just Tuesday morning feeling. "We'll get it back," I say. "Or some version of it." "Some version," she agrees. We drive. Day 14. I'm on the radio with the state team for the second time. Their technical team went into the plant on day 13, with full hazmat and proper water chemistry equipment, and spent 8 hours running comprehensive analysis. The woman who's been leading their response, I've learned her name now. It's Karen Albright, County Disaster Response Coordinator for the state, calls me with the results. "The compound is consistent with what you described," she says. "We've identified it by spectral analysis. It's a synthetic neurological compound, very unusual in a water supply. Your chloramine reduction appears to have substantially reduced, but not eliminated, the production of the altered form. The pH adjustment? Also helping. Our chemist says your instinct on the acidic conditions was correct. The chloramine formation rate drops significantly below pH 7.2. What's the compound's half-life in the distribution system? Our estimate is about 3 to 4 weeks for the naturally occurring degradation, under normal distribution conditions. With the treatment adjustments you made, the effective half-life shortens because less of the potent form is being produced. We're looking at possibly 2 to 3 weeks before concentrations in the town's distribution water fall below what we believe is the threshold for acute behavioral effects. 2 to 3 weeks. And people who are severely affected now? A pause. We have a neurological research team consulting. The damage to inhibitory circuitry is, the current assessment is, that it's not fully reversible in severe cases. In moderate cases, there may be significant recovery with removal of exposure. The brain has neuroplastic mechanisms. Another pause. We don't know yet. It's early. The metformin. We're distributing it. Based on your report, we've made it a priority. We don't know the efficacy with certainty, but the risk profile is favorable. It's a safe, well-documented medication with minimal side effects in non-diabetics, and your observed data point is compelling enough. We're in a situation where we have to act on incomplete information. A pause. Like you've been doing all along. Yes, I say. The file you recovered from the plant. The letter from the state EPA office. Yes. That's going to matter. Not now. Now doesn't have room for accountability. But later. I know. We're going to want a full written account from you. Everything from the call at 4 a.m. Every observation, every decision, every piece of information you gathered. Detailed and in order. I know, I say again. I've been keeping notes. Of course I have. I work for the Water Authority. I document everything. Day 16. Tyler's father's group arrives at the fairgrounds from the diner on day 16. 11 people in 3 vehicles, organized and supplied, no infected among them. Tyler is waiting at the gate. I watch them arrive from the operations tent, not because I'm trying to observe a private moment. I happen to be walking past, but I see Greg Bosch get out of the lead vehicle, and Tyler walk to meet him, and they have the specific reunion of 2 people who have not said everything they needed to say, but are working on it. I go back into the tent and look at water quality data with Dr. Whitfield. Day 18. Donna finally says what she's been building toward for days. She comes to the tent in the morning where I'm doing my now routine consultation on the water chemistry data the state team has been sending. She waits until Dr. Whitfield steps out for something, and then she says, "I want to know what happened to Patrice." I know. Is there a way to find out? I've been thinking about this. The hospital records, if we can get access. The county emergency management office, if anyone from there made it out. Someone who was working at Whitmore General on the night of day 0 might know. Patricia said there's a doctor here, from Whitmore General. I didn't know that. She came in 3 days ago. She was sheltering with a family on the east side. Her name is Dr. Allison Marsh. Related to Caitlin Marsh? No, different Marsh. Just a name collision. I put down my notes. "I'll come with you," I say, "if you want." Donna looks at me. It's the kind of looking someone does when they're deciding whether to accept help or whether accepting help makes the thing more real. "Yes," she says. "Come with me." Dr. Allison Marsh is maybe 40, with the specific look of someone who has been running on very little for 2 weeks. Not haggard exactly, but compressed, efficient. She's helping with medical assessments at the fairgrounds infirmary tent, and she takes a 15-minute break to talk to Donna and me. When Donna tells her who she's looking for, something shifts in Dr. Marsh's face. "Patrice Holmberg," Donna says. Her work name was Patrice Holmberg. She was in emergency management. "I know who she was," Dr. Marsh says. "She came to the hospital on the night of day 0, not as a patient. She came to try to help." A pause. "She had credentials, emergency management credentials. She was trying to coordinate with the hospital administration about what was happening, about containment. She had paperwork. She was very organized." Donna's jaw tightens. "And?" "The hospital was already past the point where paperwork was the problem," Dr. Marsh says, gently but directly. "I saw her briefly. She was on the phone when I passed her in the corridor. She was calling someone. Around midnight, I think." She looks at Donna. She was calm. I want you to know that. She was the calmest person I saw in that hospital that night. She was doing her job until... She stops. "Until the 3rd floor went," she says. "The containment on the 3rd floor failed around 1 a.m. It happened fast. A lot of people who were in that building at that time." Donna nods. She doesn't need the sentence finished. She's been not finishing that sentence in her head for 16 days. "She called me at midnight," Beverly says softly. "I didn't realize Beverly had come up behind us. But she's there, quietly." "That sounds right," Dr. Marsh says. "About midnight." Donna stands with this for a moment. Then, she called people she needed to call first, before she tried to get out. She made the calls. "That's what it sounds like," I say. Donna is looking at her dead phone, the one she pressed to the side of her head in the tunnel. "Yes," she says, "that's very Patrice. Day 20. Beverly's hands are completely steady. I notice this while she's pouring coffee in the morning at the fairgrounds communal kitchen area. Both hands. The specific tremble that I'd been watching with the part of my mind I don't let myself acknowledge too loudly. Gone. She pours the coffee, and it doesn't shake. She sees me looking. "Yes," she says, before I can say anything. "Good," I say. She hands me a cup. We stand in the kitchen tent, in the compound noise of other people doing morning things, and we drink coffee without saying anything for a while. "You know what this place smells like in the morning," she says eventually. I think about it. Camp stove smoke, instant coffee, the faint particular smell of many people living in close proximity to each other in a mostly outdoor space. Grass wet from last night's dew. Diesel from the generator. Something cooking. Oatmeal, I think. Someone's got oatmeal going somewhere. "Not a Tuesday morning coffee smell," I say. "No," she says. "But it smells like people making do." She pauses. "Which is not the worst smell." 3 weeks in. I'll tell you where things are. The state team has full control of the main treatment plant, and they've shut down the eastern tributary intake at the source. They've got teams working with the EPA to begin emergency containment, and remediation at Brentwell Pharma's site. That process is measured in months or years, not days, but the spigot is closed. The water in town's distribution system is improving. The compound is below acute effect threshold in most of the service area already. The metformin distribution has reached, the last number I heard, just under 200 people at the fairgrounds and at 3 satellite sites that have opened up since. There are also groups distributing it to people who are showing early symptoms and haven't progressed to severe. No controlled study, no clean data, but anecdotal outcomes that are, as far as anyone can tell, positive. The severely affected, I don't like the word infected because it frames this wrong. The severely affected population in town is decreasing. Not because they're recovering, mostly. Because of the realities of their condition without support. Some, apparently, have found each other and moved in groups toward the river. Some have gone still, in buildings, and are no longer mobile. A small number, somehow, are beginning to show signs that might be regression. A state team neurologist told me this on the radio, cautiously, with many caveats, possibly because the compound in their systems is finally clearing below the functional degradation threshold. Possibly. She used that word several times. The fairgrounds has 340 people now. It's getting organized in the specific messy way that mass human organization gets organized. Too many committees, not enough consensus, some turf disputes, and some selflessness in roughly equal measure. Frank runs the security operation with a precision that makes everyone around him more confident. Patricia has built a small but functional medical system with 2 other medical people who arrived in the past week. Tyler has been folded into a supply team, and he's good at it, better than he knows. Beverly is reading her 3rd book. She found it in a donation box that someone set up in the communal area. Harold Cutler planted the first seeds in the field behind the fairgrounds on day 17. He did it early in the morning before most people were awake, and I happened to see him through the operations tent window, kneeling in the dirt with his big hands pressing seeds into the turned earth. He was talking to himself while he did it. I couldn't hear what he was saying, and I didn't try to. Donna Schreiber is working with the county health team on the documentation process, the chain of evidence work, the paper trail that explains how a pharmaceutical company's illegal disposal and a water authority's institutional inaction and a 9-year-old unfollowed inspection note added up to this. She's good at it. She brings the same precision Patrice apparently had, expressed differently, in the way of people who are more alike than they thought. And me. I'm here. I'm at the treatment plant twice a week, advising. I'm in the operations tent most mornings. I've written the account Karen Albright asked for, 63 pages, handwritten first in my notebook, then typed on a borrowed laptop, detailed and in order, just like she asked. I sleep at the fairgrounds in a tent near the east perimeter. I can hear the generator. I've gotten used to the specific frequency of this generator, different from the one at the reservoir facility, different from the plant's equipment, different from everything I've spent 6 years knowing by ear. You adapt. Your ears recalibrate. A new normal establishes itself in the background noise. I still have my clipboard. I know that probably sounds ridiculous, but I take it everywhere. The same aluminum clipboard I've had for 4 years, with the Water Authority logo sticker peeling at the corner, and I don't know what I'd do without it. Every morning I do a full reading of the water chemistry data, every reading the state team sends me from the plant. pH, turbidity, chlorine residual, UV absorbance at the relevant wavelengths. I've built a homemade monitoring schedule that tells me, day by day, how the compound levels in the distribution system are trending. The numbers are moving in the right direction. Slowly. Every day. A little lower. The meters are good. Day 25. I go back to the reservoir facility alone, just to check on it. The gate is still padlocked the way Frank left it. Inside, the facility is empty. The generator is off. The control room is quiet. I go through the building on my own and do a check of the pump systems and the filter units and the chemical supplies. Everything is as I left it. I go to the east intake valve at the base of the embankment, still closed. The closure I did with Tyler and Harold 3 weeks ago, with a can of spray lubricant and Harold's pipe wrench. I test the reservoir water with my field meter. Clean. within all normal parameters for every test the meter can run. I sit on the maintenance bench by the water for a while. The one Beverly sat on. The reservoir is calm and gray-blue, and the surface moves slightly from a breeze coming in from the north, making small regular patterns that overlap and interfere with each other, and create something that is not random, but not exactly ordered either. The east intake is closed, the reservoir is clean. I think about what Raymond Gruber felt 9 years ago, standing at this intake and looking at a number that didn't fit. He was probably a careful guy, Raymond Gruber. The kind of person who writes notes in the margins of report forms. The kind of person who recommended repeat sampling and didn't get it. I write his name in my notebook, not for any specific purpose, just because it seems like the right thing to do. Day 28. The water quality report from the main plant comes in on the morning of day 28, and the UV absorbance at 237 nanometers, the range that Raymond Gruber flagged 9 years ago, the range that I've been watching every day, has dropped to background levels. Background levels. The specific absorption signature that Velen-4 produces in the distribution water is now indistinguishable from normal organic matter noise. I read the number twice. Then I write it down in my notebook next to all the previous readings. Then I sit in the operations tent with the number in my head and the early morning sounds of the fairgrounds around me. People waking up, the camp stove going, someone's radio playing something I can't quite identify, and I think about the fact that I almost didn't answer a call. The numbers are the right numbers. The meters are reading what they should read. I close my notebook. I get up. I go find Beverly. She's at the communal coffee, second cup. She's talking to Donna about something. They've started spending time together, these two women who are connected by a woman who's gone, finding their way into whatever version of connection that produces. They both look up when I walk over. The water's clean, I say. Beverly holds her coffee mug with both hands, steady. Clean as in. The compound is at background levels. It's gone from the active distribution supply. The morning sounds of the fairgrounds. Someone's radio. The camp stove. Beverly looks at her coffee. Is this from the plant? From the plant. She turns back to whatever she and Donna were talking about and says, simply, "Well then. I'm going to tell you one more thing. On the morning of day 30, I drove back to the junction box building on the utility road where I'd parked the service truck 11 days ago in a different world. The truck was there, still locked. The lot around it had some tire tracks from the past couple of weeks that weren't mine. Someone, at some point, had driven on this road, but the truck was untouched. I unlocked it, got in. The engine turned over on the first try, which is a testament to nothing, except that I have a good truck. I sat in it for a minute with the engine running, the specific sound of the service truck engine, which I know the way I know the treatment plant's equipment, the way I know my mother's voice on the phone at 4 a.m. The radio was still on the country station from the night I drove out of the plant and into the worst night of my life. The station was dead. Nothing on that frequency, just static. But the radio was on, like it was waiting for the signal to come back. I drove the truck to the fairgrounds, parked it in the lot with all the other vehicles, wrote the date on my clipboard. Beverly was at the fence when I pulled in, which I didn't expect. She was looking south toward the county road, which is empty and has been empty, but she was looking in that direction anyway, the way you look toward where things come from. She didn't turn around immediately. I got out of the truck and I walked over to her. "You've got the truck back," she said. "Yes. It's still working." "Yes." She turned around, the morning light on her face, her coffee mug in both hands, steady. "Good," she said. "That's one less thing." She went back toward the communal tent. I stayed at the fence for a minute. I looked south. The road. The sky above the road. The distance, which is just distance, which is just space between here and whatever comes next.